we ask for forgiveness for all the sins we have committed against you and your heavenly host. If you do not forgive our wrongdoings, Father, who will? We, your peoples, place before you our weaknesses, our helplessness, our concerns, and our endeavors. Most merciful God, you are the Lord of the oppressed, and we entrust everything we do into your able hands. Heavenly Father, look with pity upon us, your children. We are weighed down by social injustice, political instability, poverty, hunger, unemployment, insecurity, oppression, brutality, and enslavement by seen and unseen, known and unknown forces that seem to overcome us. Father, we place ourselves, our liberation movement, our search for lasting solutions to these numerous problems created for us by known and unknown forces into your mighty hands. We also look upon you for provision of both human and financial resources to carry out this enormous task of our liberation project. Bring your lasting solutions to them so that we may live the life you have created in us as peoples created in your own image and likeness. We also commit our leaders in your hands. Direct all of them and direct all of us as we continue to move forward towards our self-determination. Channel us with your everlasting love to our final destination, which is total freedom from captivity and enslavement that we all seek. We pray in the mighty name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Brief introduction of our Lower Niger Radio. Lower Niger Radio is the initiative of a few individuals who saw the necessity of enlightening and educating our peoples in the Lower Niger Territory on the urgent need to be part of this liberation project of all the ethnic nationalities that are entrapped in the union of death Nigeria has become for them. Following the events happening in Nigeria today and always, I am sure nobody is happy with Nigeria as currently constituted. However, the owners of their respective ancestral lands in the South and Middle Belt formed a strong alliance for the single purpose of self-determination. This alliance is called NINAS, the Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, which declared a constitutional force majeure, CFM, on the 16th of December 2020. NINAS has three blocks, the Lower Niger, the Yoruba, and the Middle Belt blocks. NINAS cannot be pensioned without connecting it to the Lower Niger Congress. So, seeing and recognizing the enormous good work the Lower Niger Congress had been doing all these years, these few individuals formed a media team to help the Lower Niger Congress bring these messages of hope, trust, and truth to all our peoples in our homeland. These peoples include Anang, Ibibio, Efik, Ishan, Ijaw, Idoma, Igbo, Kalabari, Bini, Itshekiri, Urobo, Obolo, Ogoni, Ogoja, Ugep, and so many others. Join us today and be part of the People's Revolutionary Movement for total freedom from the oppressive and brutal caliphate-imposed document called 1999 Fraudulent Constitution. Power belongs to the people. Lower Niger Radio is your voice of liberation.
Don't touch the dial.
You will notice the lack of adequate reaction by our people within Nigeria, especially the downtrodden, those that are persecuted, those that went to protest at Lekki and got shot, all those that has been shot at Mbo, at Nnewi, at Ekulobia, in Southern Kaduna, in Zaria, the way they are responding to what is happening in Nigeria or to the eventual collapse of Nigeria is not adequate yet. What do I mean by this? I mean, they need to take on the churches, especially the churches. Number one target should be the churches across southern Nigeria, Middle Belt. Members should begin to ask their church leaders, their pastors, their evangelists and prophets what they are doing. Once again, Nigerians in the United States are taking the lead. They are taking the lead again because our people are dozing at home. Oyedepo is moving about freely. Adeboye is moving about with his convoy, no harassment in church. Nobody stops him to ask him, what are you doing? All of them, many of them are going about, nobody is challenging them because people believe they are men of God. Services are not being disrupted to ask them why they are keeping quiet, while people cannot go to bed and sleep in the southwest, southeast, south, middle belt, or even the Christian areas of the north. These guys have betrayed the very thing they were called to do, to take care of the flock. Yet, they are called men of God. How could they be true men of God when they are actually watching their flocks being taken by the wolves, by imported murderers, terrorists, by the same government they are hanging out with? When W.F. Kumuyi goes to Buhari, he will be grinning ear to ear, so happy, so excited. Jesus Christ. Protesters disrupt RCCG church services in the U.S. over the silence of the RCCG church authorities on the killings by Fulani militia in Nigeria. They walked into the church and disrupted everything they were doing. And the church is populated by mostly Igbo.
We will take this no more.
The church is populated by mostly Igbo and Yoruba members. The Redeemed Christian Church of what is the name? RCCG, Redeemed Christian Church of God. They are politicians. They are playing politics. These are, in fact, Adeboye by his preachings is a very divisive character to begin with. I can reference some of his sermons that aren't uniting but very divisive. But in Nigeria's case, in the fall of Nigeria, Adeboye is not on the side of the people. All of them, including the owner of Trem, Bishop Mike Okonkwo. It is only, what's the other one? Suleiman. Johnson Suleiman died a few years ago, and they hunted him so bad, they wanted to kill him. Because he spoke against the Fulani. He told his members to take a stand. This is the time to tell your members to take a stand if you are not a hypocrite.
We will take this no more. Many of us here are Igbos and Yorubas. This is what is happening to our people. We don't care. Send it back to your principal.
They are being shown pictures of people that are getting killed in Nigeria and yet they are staying silent.
Adesoya is my name, Dr. Adesoya. You will take this no more. It's absolute nonsense. A minute race want to wipe out the majority of people in Nigeria. We won't take it no more. And people are here feeling cool. They are killing our people at home. People are feeling cool.
Let everybody, let him answer. Excuse me, sir. Let everybody sit down. We're a civilized society. We can't scream our way to this, out of this. You know that, right?
We will start with screaming too. We will scream. What type of God are they preaching? What God are they worshiping?
This has nothing to do with civilization.
The God of mammon, money.
Wiping out our race.
Everybody, please.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. We won't take this no more.
Please, can you sit down?
Send it back to the Fulani government.
Please, everybody sit down. Excuse me, please. Please, everybody sit down. This is a church.
understand you. Yeah? We won't take this no more. Allow this thing to happen.
What type of church are you?
We won't take this nonsense no more.
Which type of church are you? And this may spread all over the world.
Many of us are Yorubas.
All these churches will be targeted all around the world. They should get ready.
We won't take it no more. Look at children. You have been heard. But we can present. I won't. I have a right. So I have a right.
You are using us as a
I have a right.
You are using us for propaganda.
I do have a right. I do have a right.
That's not fair.
I do have a right. It's a judge. So you people are conspirators. Redeem is a conspirator. Redeem is a conspirator to this nonsense. Let me talk to you privately.
Yeah, Redeem is a conspirator church. The leaders are conspirators. They are collaborating with the
We don't care.
evil going on in Nigeria.
Call the police.
They are in collaboration with the evil that is going on in Nigeria.
Police. Redeem, you are conspirators.
They are.
Redeem church, you are conspirators.
They are.
Can I talk to you for a minute?
You're using your platform.
They are.
It's nonsense.
Can I talk to you for a minute?
Don't take this no more.
When you started talking, I'm a physician, okay?
God bless.
Nigeria.
Even if any government, including this one, just have all the political appointments from the one village. My thesis is that the life of the average person in that village will not change. Just rewind it again, and think the other way. The last regime, we had an Ebele Azikiwe as president. We had secretary to government. We had minister of finance and coordinating minister on the economy. We had all of this deputy senate president, this, that, and so on and so forth. Most of the financial institutions headed by people from the southeast. And yet, there is no motorable federal highway in Igbo land.
Thank you. So, of what use is Nigeria to our people?
This thing is an elite game, as far as I'm concerned.
There you
the
go.
issue of who and whatever and so on and so forth is not taking us anywhere. And unless we get to the heart of it. So, it seems that there is a consensus today.
This is Charles Soludo speaking. Charles Soludo got recently elected as the governor of Anambra State, my home state. He's been among the elite in Nigeria at least in the last 20 years. The place of our people in Nigeria is what we are trying to figure out through referendum. And I've advised that Charles Soludo should pay attention to what matters to our people. And referendum is one of that. Now here is Charles Soludo speaking.
There is a consensus. If you take it much broadly, the North, so-called North, if you calculate the number of years they were in power, but essentially, poverty is still predominantly a northern phenomenon. So, that you control this and a few billionaires are made here and there and so on and so forth means absolute nothing. The ordinary man in Nigeria has not benefited, is getting worse off by the current system that we have. But there is a consensus now on restructuring.
Presidency of Igbo extraction does not mean anything to Igbo people. What we want is a Nigeria that goes through referendum. Our people desires to vote in a referendum, along with Middle Belt, Oduduwa, every other people in the lower Niger territory. We are demanding for a binding, not to be delayed, referendum in Nigeria now. Otherwise, the alternative wouldn't be okay.
In that case, Fordila would argue that Biafra becomes a metaphor for agitation by oppressed people for justice, equity, and fairness It hasn't worked for anybody. If you look at President Buhari recently said he also supports amendment of the constitutional devolution. If you read the APC manifesto, it says, quote, as a change agent, APC intends to cleanse our closet to halt the dangerous drift of Nigeria to a failed state with a conscious plan for post-oil economy in Nigeria. To achieve this laudable program, APC government shall restructure the country, devolve power to the units with the best practices of federalism, and eliminate unintended paralysis of the center. End of quote. This is the government in power that controls 23 states. This is the APC manifesto. So, and the Southern People's Assembly talk about the same thing. The Afenifere's position on the National Conference, if you read it, talks about the same thing. The National Conference report talks, supported by BDP, the same thing. So what is holding us? I must say the goal of this bit should be political stability and economic prosperity. In my view, a competitive federalism. We can write a book on this aspect of competitive federalism. Compared to the First Republic, when everybody had theirs, they had the resources, especially on revenue, a fiscal federalism. We've argued before, leave everybody their own thing, let them pay taxes to the center. This umbilical cord where Abuja will set wage for everybody all over the country, and so on and so forth. It was for a time when oil money paid for it, not anymore. Even in the US, you may have read about the governor of Maine, that the wife of the governor had to take a job in a restaurant to augment their income. Because given the state of Maine, the salary of the governor was not enough for them to survive on. And the wife had to take a job in a restaurant. The governor of Maine's salary cannot be the same as the mayor of New York, and so on and so forth. But here we've done all of this. Abuja controls. Anyway, that's for another day. But what is holding us now, what I call as matter arising, is that the devil is in the details. Let the debate begin. What exactly do we mean by restructuring? The National Conference report, for example, is a beginning, but in my view, doesn't go much. It talks about creating more states, which misses the point. It's still more of the same. We are saying the ones that you have are not viable. 20-something states today cannot pay salaries. So what are we talking about? Or should we go back to the EQMS constitution, the proposal of 6 zonal structure as the federating units? What model of federation? Should we use the UAE, United Arab Emirates system, or which one are we going? Let us get to work and begin to think. Some people propose, and I agree, that we need a new constitution negotiated by the people of Nigeria. And my thesis is that if this is the only achievement of President Buhari, he would have been the greatest statesman ever in the mold of Abraham Lincoln. But we need to get this done. That the people of Nigeria will have to get together and negotiate a new constitution for themselves. Second, or the third point, is leadership failure in Igbo land. It raises fundamental questions if you read Chude's book on the collapse of failure of leadership in Igbo land and the search for the new one, whatever. It's in that light it agitates your mind when we talk about Igbo presidency. What does that actually mean? Is it to have somebody wearing a red cap in the villa, or what? If all that we say, even within the states, a governor is first his village, his local government, then his senatorial zone, so that he can be Ocholo Ozwa of his own local government or his village, and so on and so forth, then let the others care. Is that the kind of leadership we are talking about Nigeria, or in the new Biafra, as it were? And we have seen it, like I said, about people occupying offices and so on and so forth, and still nothing.
This is part one of what Professor Chukwuma Soludo had to say a few months ago. And the concluding part will be in the part two.
Which way Nigeria? Which way Nigeria? Which way to go? Which way to go? I love my fatherland. Oh yeah. I want to know. Yes, I want to know. Which way Nigeria is heading to?
Constitutional force majeure. Make I talk am again. Constitutional force majeure. Oh yeah, hear am again. Oh. Constitutional force majeure. That's not the new reigning motto where they don't come out for the Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. NINAS. Constitutional force majeure. Now waiting we go take forward march to freedom all the ethnic nationality them where they don't throw away inside cage for this dungeon where they call Nigeria. If you never know us before, now we be the people of Middle Belt and South. We don't join hand together to formulate the Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. NINAS. Listen to this one. On 16 December 2020, now we don't declare a constitutional force majeure on the fraudulent Nigeria Lai 1999 constitution. Now the Yeye Fulani ethnic minority carry this sufferness throw away for the head of the people who get the land in the first place since 1999. Chai! As they don't condemn that 1999 Wayo constitution, NINAS don't direct the Nigeria government to gather a national roundtable meeting. Make we for talk the kind style where we go take sit down for inside our region on top country where we dey sleep for only one eye. This now waiting that big grammar constitutional force majeure go do suffering and smiling. It don't do. Nigeria people don't suffer rich. Waiting we never see. Nigerian people don't chop fear from out. All the land of the South and Middle Belt don't turn to river of blood. Waiting all because of this evil Nigeria 1999 Lai constitution. Hey, I beg, true to God, they don't push us reach the wall. Nowhere to go again. Enough is enough. So therefore, everybody, make una come. Make we join hand now with NINAS. Make we for support the constitutional force majeure to free ourselves from the Fulani British captivity so that we go forward march into a free nation where your security and development is guaranteed.
I love my fatherland. Oh yeah. I want to know. Yes, I want to know. Which way Nigeria is heading to?
Now the Voice of Liberty International bring on this story.
And still nothing. So the question is, the same contradictions in Nigeria are also there within Igbo land. We cry of marginalization at the larger Nigeria, but there is also cries of marginalization within.
True that.
There is the identity question within. There is the citizenship and indigenship question within. How many other Igbos live in Aba and in Abia, for example? But, I don't know, 2 years or 3 years ago, that was the indigenship thing, that all non-Abia citizens were sacked from but these people had lived there, worked there, paid their taxes there. They were counted as part of Abia in the census. You collect revenue, more revenue because of them. But then, no, you can't walk in there. You are not an indigent. So while we are pointing one finger there, ladies and gentlemen, look closely. The other three are saying, let's get it here. And so how can this new leadership emerge? And then of course the entry fee is very high. The fourth, the new Biafranism, and that is my last point. And let me say that Nigeria has wittingly or unwittingly dragged the Biafran issue from the periphery into the mainstream discussion.
True.
Nnamdi Kanu, in my view, threw a bait and Nigeria took it. Today, he is the most popular political prisoner and will end up either as a hero or a martyr. But to his credit, he has forced Nigeria and the world to discuss Biafra. I believe that keeping him there does not do Nigeria any good. I believe this young man should be released, and released like yesterday. I will not be surprised if he becomes a subject of the next political campaigns. Just like we dealt with Awolowo, who was convicted and imprisoned of treason, or Gowon, charged with treason, or even Ojukwu himself, who was forgiven, and so on and so forth. I don't want to make any predictions, but I believe we need to solve this. Because according to Ofodile, this book, quote, he said, the lesson to be learned, if anyone cares to listen, is that the detention of Nnamdi Kanu, no matter for how long, will not stop the agitation of Biafra, end of quote. He further argues that the detention of Rccg between 2005 to 2007 helped to radicalize his followers. The same thing happened when the leader of Boko Haram was killed. His followers became more radicalized. Detention of Nnamdi Kanu, I never heard of him before this time, to be quite honest. Never heard of him. I didn't even know about the IPOP or whatever thing. Until this thing, and you now realize globally it's become an issue and it's become mainstream. Now, and again, quote, he says, this book argues that the idea of a customary government under the Supreme Council of Elders in accordance with customary law enjoys the support among a section of the Igbo. But it is the Biafra or death philosophy of Nnamdi Kanu that found resonance across the length and breadth of the Igbo nation. Therefore, there cannot be a resolution of the Biafran dilemma without a wholesome engagement of the Nnamdi Kanu/Uche Mefo faction of IPOB. End of quote. That's what this was. So, if I were President Buhari, quite honestly, I would be very suspicious of anyone who advises me to ignore the Biafran issue. I'll be very suspicious. Anybody who says that is either ignorant or being mischievous, or quite patently doesn't mean well for the government itself. It probably wants the same government to repeat the mistakes of the past so that it could lead it down the train. We must start learning in this country. So let's talk Biafra. Where are the Igbo elite and the intelligentsia in all of this, especially those in Nigeria? It seems, as this book points out, this is being driven mostly by the Igbo intelligentsia in diaspora, the new resurgence. The new ones within, there seems to be a division, 3 classes you can identify. The ones within the mainland, and I'm shocked, and you discussed, they have a different point of view. Those in diaspora within Nigeria, so to speak, who are in Abuja and Lagos and so on and so forth, Kano, Kaduna, and so on. And an elder was asked about that, living in one of these northern states, about Biafra, and they asked him, what do you think about this Biafra? He said, well, I just said, no, in other words, they should keep it up, but you know I can no longer go now. You see all the things I have here, I cannot carry them on my head. So, there seems to be a sense of either denial, and on one part, or people who think, no, it won't be, because we can't just imagine it. And because of some discussion that, okay, if this happens, you will lose your property, you will lose that, and so on. Of course, that is untenable. I mean, I too was wrong on this, because if by any chance you have another state of Biafra, it will be the 16th state of ECOWAS. And that means you have free movement of goods and persons. But the fundamental question, the fundamental issue is that this debate is not happening. This whole thing is being driven almost in a haphazard manner. Last week, they called for, was that last week? Yeah, last week. They called for a sit at home. And even without anybody getting out to more enforce and so on, I learned virtually Anambra and many other cities were completely shut down. It just tells you there is something going on. But again, where is the elite in this? What is missing is structured debate and apparent elite aloofness or complicity or hypocrisy. Elite in denial. For the politicians who think you can just, let's use them temporarily, let's use them. Just go on while we can then use that to negotiate for something here. I can tell you, you will create a monster that will consume you. When that inferno comes, both us, everybody else, and the kind of thing that happened in Biafra where any dissent was considered a saboteur. Okay? You might get to a point where you will be telling them, just go on while we can negotiate here, get something for ourselves in Abuja. I can tell you, these guys are no fools. At some point, they will look at you too and know that you're actually part of the problem. And so on and so forth. So, I say, let the debate must begin. The late Dr. Pius Okibo, in this book as well, presented what the memo by late Dr. Pius Okibo presented to the Biafran government on the economic viability of Biafra. Nobody is talking about what the currency will look like. How will you fare with international trade? What kind of constitution are you talking about? And Ofodile forcefully argues here that the Ahira Declaration of 1969 came too late. They had intelligentsia pushing for Biafra, but there was no organized structure. That if they had done what they did towards the end of the war at the beginning, Biafra would not have ended the way that it did. But what is shocking is people talk about this in their bedrooms and in their parlors, and then you come out and everybody is just and so on. I'm sure it will not take long. So what I'm calling is that we must, the elite, the intelligentsia, get out of the closet and let us, now that the issue, the president in New York made a point. He said there will be no referendum in Biafra. Now, and I said, my reaction to it was, oh my God. So this matter has actually gotten to the point where we are now.
Yes, it has gotten to the point where the president, by his almighty powers, can give us a conclusive statement that this will not happen because he's God. Yes, referendum will happen upon Nigeria. Definitely it will. It's a matter of time. And yes, the people will vote to decide where they want to be, whether to continue with this left chain that is all around each other's neck and hands and feet, or we'll go our separate ways. And this is the call that is going out in the Middle Belt, that is going through genocide, being orchestrated by the president's tribesmen, the Fulani, with the backing of current government, including ministers in the government. Issa Pantami, El Rufai in Kaduna, is said to be one of the commanders of the bandits, the terrorists. Benue State, Plateau State, all areas in the north are coming under attack. Southwest is not spared, southeast, south, everywhere is under attack. And so Ninas comes in and says, look, this is the template. This is how you can go about doing this. Referendum for the regions or zones or states or whatever you call it, but we know who we are in our regions. We want to have referendum, a binding referendum to be supervised by the United Nations. This will help to stabilize Nigeria, including the emerging nation states. If Muhammad Buhari wishes Nigeria well, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu wishes Nigeria well, if Ojus Okalo wishes Nigeria well, who is that other criminal that is seeking to become president? Oh yeah, Rochas Okorocha that robbed Imo State dry. If they really mean well for Nigeria, let them join the call for referendum. If they really even, like if Rochas Okorocha mean well for any people he built school for in the north, in Meduguri or wherever, if Rochas wishes them well, Rochas Okorocha, this is a public call to you. Join the call for referendum so that we can restore hope and dignity to our people. And if you don't want for our people, at least for those people you are helping in the north, in the far north, help them to begin to heal by having whatever they choose to have. Through referendum. And that's what our people are asking for. Not the presidency of Nigeria. We don't need the presidency of Nigeria. A lot of people in different countries don't even know who the president of their country or their prime ministers are, as long as the system is working for them. I mean, not just for them, but for everyone. The system must not be discriminatory. The system must work. It's just like tap. When you turn it, it will run. That is all that we are demanding. And we cannot find it. We can't get it in Nigeria. And so we're asking for a referendum. The name of our territory will be decided by our people. And that's the message of NINAS. So that we can serve greater number of our people. Let's go through referendum. It's not complicated. God forbid that Nigeria should continue the way it is. Nigeria government isn't only in bed with the terrorists, but they are enabling them, protecting them, and the president doesn't speak against them because they are his tribesmen and members of Islamic movement that wants to overpower Nigerians and institute Islamic State across Nigeria, not just in the Arewa part of Nigeria. It's unfortunate. Just yesterday, Tuesday, over 30 passengers in a bus got burnt in Sokoto. And these are most likely southern travelers in that state that got burnt. You will never hear the president speak against them. President Buhari fails to describe Sokoto bus burning of 30 Nigerians by bandits as terrorism. This is being reported by AtlanticPosting.com on December 8th. Nigeria President Muhammadu Buhari has continued to make light of the significance of the mass murderous campaign of some killer tribesmen, his tribesmen, the Fulani herdsmen terrorists, who had been categorized in the Global Terrorism Index as the 4th deadliest terrorist group in the world, by failing to describe the Tuesday mass murder by bandits in Sokoto of 30 Nigerian travelers who were burnt down in a bus. President Buhari said, while expressing sadness on Wednesday, a day after, over the gruesome attack on innocent travelers on Wednesday, I am very distressed at the manner of death visited on these hapless citizens who were undertaking a legitimate journey to another part of the country. It shows that the evil this administration is confronting is one that requires the support and involvement of all Nigerians. No, your government is the one enabling the terrorists. You gave them over $300 million just a few years ago. The military and police does not confront them because they are the president's people. They are doing the work of Allah to kill Muslims, especially, to kill Southern Christians. I extend deep condolences to the families of the victims, as I assure that the security agencies will continue to give their all, yes, to bring to an end the oppression of these despicable people. However, President Buhari should know that only terrorists embark on mass murder of scores of people. Bandits go pillaging and robbing. According to a report by Reuters, at least 30 passengers on a bus in Nigeria's Sokoto State were burned to death when gunmen touched it on Tuesday. Police and residents said, in yet another reminder of growing insecurity in Africa's most populous country. Gunmen, known locally as bandits, have in the past year carried out violent attacks targeting villagers and commuters traveling on highways and kidnapped hundreds of school children for ransom in the north of the country. I must add here also that Benue State, Plateau State, these states in the Middle Belt has been experiencing mass murders, mass killings by the same gunmen, that the same terrorists Fulani group that has even threatened the state governor, the governor of Benue State, Governor Autumn. His life has been threatened by the Fulani. And yet, the maximum ruler in Abuja doesn't see the need for state police. He doesn't see the need for referendum. This is what we're talking about. Referendum is unavoidable in Nigeria to address all these killings, all these extrajudicial killings and state collusion in the act of terrorism against the indigenous nationalities. Sanusi Abubakar, spokesman for the Northwestern Sokoto State Police, said the bus was carrying 24 passengers when it was set alight by armed men and that 7 people had escaped with injuries and taken to hospital. The 2 residents who reached the scene and helped retrieve bodies told Reuters that the bus was overloaded and the bodies were burnt beyond recognition. Nigeria always distorts the facts. Every time, from the top to bottom, the president goes to the UN floor, and right on the floor of the United Nations, he is lying, telling the rest of the world lies, talking about famine as against terrorist activities that his government is supporting. He will be talking about desertification, how people are leaving Libya to go other places, without talking about the fact that he opened the borders of Nigeria to let in terrorists to oppress the people. They counted body parts of at least 30 people, including women and children. The residents said the villagers were ambushed on a road linking the Sabon Bini local government area and the village of Gidambawa in Sokoto State. Bandits move around on motorbikes and are known to hide in forests, where they often keep kidnapped victims while awaiting ransom payment. Now, this is the Nigeria that we are seeking to reset by way of referendum. And this is the message of Ninas. Referendum. The people need to get involved in what is going on to themselves, to their lives, through referendum vote. It's a democratic process. The Nigerian government is skirting around it. The president said that those who are talking about referendum haven't described what they mean. Well, Mr. President, it is a vote. People will vote yes or no. In the simplest way of explaining it to you. Hopefully you will get it one of these days, and soon too.
Don't told you to die.
From the various states of the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, they come in honor of the invitation of the Ijaw National Congress to its program titled All Ijaw Summit.
The point of fact is that
expectedly, issues concerning the aspirations of the Ijaw nation dominate discussions on the theme, the Nigerian state and the Ijaw question.
What we have in our country today is a unitary system of governance and dressed in the borrowed robes of federalism. Not surprisingly, states and ethnic nationalities are increasingly clamoring for self-determination, or even in outright cases, secession. The ideal situation will be the devolution of powers from the center to the states. While it is my cherished hope that Nigeria will find reasons to coexist peacefully, equitably, and justly, we cannot believe that all is well. Gatherings such as this should actually prepare us for the eventuality.
The country called Nigeria.
The sub-themes are redefining the Nigerian state and the Ijaw people, the imperative of Ijaw quest for self-determination yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and reforms in Ijaw national polity, the need for self-introspection. The program ends with a communique.
The Ijaw nation and Ijaw people will no longer depend on the Nigerian state solely for the protection of their environment. To this end, an autochthonous Ijaw environmental protection strategy is evolved so as to leave behind a sustainable land for future generations.
The Ijaw nation takes a stand for self-determination.
We have resolved from this summit to employ and engage all peaceful, diplomatic, and non-violent means and pursuits to actualize our right to self-determination as a distinct people of common historical, linguistic, and cultural affinity and geographical contiguity. The Ijaw people shall stop at nothing to drive, to pursue this target of self-determination until it is achieved.
A common denominator among participants is the leaking wellhead of ITAO's OML 29, the pollution in Nembe, and the cry of the people.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. It's showtime. Well, today, from Ibom People's Radio, the topic is UK MPs to debate sanctions against Nigeria. Today, Wednesday, December 11th, 2021. As a matter of fact, this is going to happen at 4:30 p.m. UK time. So this is going to start in about an hour or so. So basically, what are we talking about here? MPs from news reports would hold a debate today. United Kingdom members of parliament from the House of Commons will hold a debate on the Magnitsky sanctions and human rights abuses in Nigeria. This debate, as usual, will be held in Westminster Hall in England. The debate will be led, reportedly from the reports, by Chris Bryant, Member of Parliament. Chris Bryant, Member of Parliament, will lead this debate on sanctions, on how to sanction greedy, inept, and murderous Nigerian officials. So we have a couple of questions to address here. Number one, what is the Magnitsky Act? A lot of people don't know what this is. I'll give a quick background. The second question we're answering, how does it apply to Nigerian officials and UK laws? The third question is, how does it affect Akwa Ibom? We are here to advocate for Akwa Ibom people, for 7 million Akwa Ibom people, for self-determination, for economic independence and political independence. That's what we are here to advocate for. So we take these Nigerian issues and see, does it affect Akwa Ibom? Should Akwa Ibom care about the Magnitsky Act? Should it care that the House of Parliament is in London, where a lot of decisions are made on even the very Nigeria? Should it matter? Should it matter in London? This is where the president goes to get his health care gets everything. Nigeria politically depend on their former colonialists in the United Kingdom. Does it matter? The question is yes. I will go on to respond to the 3 questions I posed today. Number 1, what is the Magnitsky Act? Well, this is really a bill that was passed in the US in 2016. It authorizes the US government to sanction other countries where they believe the officials of those countries, not the nation itself, but the officials of those countries are human rights offenders. It allows the government, the US government, and in this case, the UK government, to freeze their assets and ban them from entering the US, in this case, the UK. Because the UK is actually adopting the Magnitsky Act of the US own. So, if you are from a country which the US does business with, and you have human rights abuses, such as what Buhari and his Fulani-led government is doing, so it allows that government, in this case, it will allow the UK, this debate today will allow the United Kingdom to freeze the assets, as you can imagine, all those fancy houses in London and UK, by Nigerian officials who have stolen money. Everybody's aware of this. Essentially, grab the whole of Nigerian oil resources money and packed in the UK. It allows the government to freeze this. If the government can prove, if like what Chris Bryant is doing today, if it can ascertain that that government has human rights offenders, which we do. We have political prisoners today, a lot of political prisoners that Buhari put you in prison. If you say a single thing against the insecurity in Nigeria, against ISWAP, people who Buhari calls his Fulani brothers from Mali, from Niger Republic, coming into the country, if you say anything, you are thrown into Buhari's gulag. You are thrown into his gulag. So those ones, human rights abuses, to freeze the assets. Freeze the assets in England in this particular case, and ban them from entering the UK. I could give them a list. I could help them here. Starting from the Chief of Staff himself, Professor Soludo, to ministers like Lai Mohammed, which people refer to as Liar Mohammed, because he lies a lot about government policy. In fact, he even lied recently about the killing of young people in the NSAS debacle, where young people were murdered at the gates of Lekki Toll. So that's what it allows them to do. So that kind of answers my second question. How does it apply? It applies to Nigerian government officials. It applies to the ministers who have enabled the killing, has enabled the stealing, who own property in England. We have the list of all of them. We are going to submit this to the United Kingdom. We have the list. Nigerian officials should not be allowed. People like Malami, the Attorney General. People like Issa Pantami, who is a terrorist who trained in Sudan, a self-confessed terrorist who trained in Sudan, is running the communications ministry in Nigeria. Basically, is in fact in power to decide who comes into Nigeria and who doesn't. And he has allowed, according to him, not me, his brothers, Fulanis, to flow into the country, causing the serious insecurity in Nigeria today. So how does it affect Akwa Ibom? Simple. Akwa Ibom resources are used to fund this.
Yes.
So if you go to Hyde Park in London and see those houses, 30% of the value of those houses belong to Akwa Ibom. Why? Because Akwa Ibom finances the Nigerian economy by 30%. This is accurate. This is simple. I don't mind pushback on this. I welcome it. Feel free to write about this. And I'm very, very ready to respond. So we are waiting the results of this. But we have sent input. I know I've sent input to the House of Commons myself on behalf of our organization. Quick input. But we have details. We have let them know that we are ready to supply them details, to give the names of every Nigerian officials who have abused human rights, specifically the Inspector General of Police and all that, and those of them who have stolen money and are parking them in England itself. That is the whole idea of the Magnitsky Act. It has been adopted by a lot of countries now. So if you do what people like Buhari is doing in Nigeria today, you can be stopped. You wonder, why is it a big deal? They are afraid. These people, all their children are in England and the US. All their money is packed over there. They don't love the Nigeria they claim to love. They are all scared and they will run. When the country is about to break up, watch, all these men and women will run away. They don't have anything in Nigeria, so what do they care? So, which is why people like us are calling for self-determination. We are calling for self-emancipation, not restructuring. Self-determination, which means we decide where we want to be. Akwa Ibom is not part of this. Akwa Ibom is not part of the destruction of Nigeria. Akwa Ibom, very, very rarely will any Akwa Ibom people be affected in this, what is being debated now. We have a list of those who will be affected. I gave you some names already. I could give more. Thank you very much. This is all. This is our only message today. Magnitsky Act being debated in the United Kingdom House of Commons. Nigeria will be affected. Nigerian officials like Laya Mohammed, Nigerian officials like Issa Pantami, Nigerian officials like Sule Gambari, the chief of staff, Nigerian officials have to be made. Seize those assets, return them to Kwa Ibom State where they belong. Return them to Kwa Ibom people. Let them decide what they want to do with it. Let them decide whether they want to be part of this country. To be part of this country, which every single day you hear one terrible issue or the other affecting a country in which people are insecure, the education is done, all the doctors are fled. This is all I have to say to you this morning. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Here is a more comprehensive report of Ija's begins self-determination campaign at summit. This is the full communique issued after the meeting yesterday. Communique of the All Ijaw Summit held on Saturday, 4th December 2021 at the Ijaw House, Sani Abacha Road, Yenegua, Bayelsa State. An All Ijaw Summit was held under the auspices of the Ijaw National Congress, the umbrella socio-cultural, political, non-partisan organization of the Ijaw Ethnic Nationality of Nigeria, on Saturday, 4th December 2021 at Ijaw House, Yenegua. The summit, which attracted prominent sons and daughters of Ijaw Nation, was convoked to undertake self-appraisal and evaluation of the existential conditions of the people of Ijaw Ethnic Nationality. It was chaired by His Royal Majesty Justice F.F. Tebai, Justice of the Supreme Court, retired, the Ebenana Oweifo, Tuemo Kingdom. Noticeable leaders present were the Governor of Bayelsa State, His Excellency Senator Duye Diri, the Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State, His Excellency Senator Lawrence Ewuhuru Japo, Senator Chief Dr. Edwin K. Clark, OFR, CON, Chairman Board of Trustees of the Ijaw National Congress, represented by Ambassador God Knows Bolade Igali, Alawe Broderick Bozimo, former Minister of Police Affairs, Honorable Abraham Ngobere, Speaker, Bayelsa State House of Assembly, retired Honorable Komboye Benson Friday, Secretary to the Government of Bayelsa State, Honorable Funke Keme Solomon, former Deputy Speaker of Delta State House of Assembly, Elder Erasmus Patrick, Commissioner for Ijaw Affairs. Others present were traditional rulers led by His Royal Majesty King Alfred Dieter Spieth, Amayanaba of Tuon Brass, and Chairman Bayelsa State Council of Traditional Rulers, political leaders, captains of industry, and youths. After critical reappraisal and the evaluation of the past, present, and the introspection into the future of the Ijaw Nation, Summit noted as follows. 1. That the Aboriginal Ijaws have been the oldest indigenous settlers in Niger Delta area, SWAT, deep Republican characteristics that abhors oppression, repression, and suppression.
The unitary constitution of Nigeria is the source of all of the problems we have been trying to resolve. everything that has brought Nigeria to where it is, that is now wobbling to some kind of catastrophic collapse, are coming from that constitution. All the contents of the treasury, the principles for managing the resources, so that's the custodians of the treasury, the custodians of power in Nigeria are not to be accountable to the populace for the contents of the treasury. Anybody talking about the rule of law in Nigeria under this constitution is just wasting his time. All atrocities committed in the name of government were put beyond the reach of the court to probe into. These same principles have matured into express provisions that became the quota system. They call it federal character. In that mediocrity, you bring the worst of everybody to come and manage everything for everybody. Go and look at the autopsy report on Nigerian Airways, on Nigerian National Shipping Line, on NITEL, on all the agencies of government that have been run aground. It was simply mediocrity.
Chief Awolowo attended the constitutional conferences for the review of Nigeria's constitution in 1953, 1954, 1957, and 1958.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. It is to this end that my colleagues and I pledge ourselves. The first main task of conference is to resolve those problems which defied solutions in 1957 and to evolve for Nigeria a constitution of which both the British and the Nigerian peoples can be proud. The second is to get Her Majesty's government to agree to April 2nd, 1960 as the target date for Nigeria's independence. Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there is any doubt among us as to what should be written into the constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems as the goal has.
Unfortunately, the Nigeria that Awolowo and Zik were working on died even within a week by the thoughts and actions of Ahmadu Bello, who considered the country less than 10 days after independence to be the estate of his grandfather, Ottoman Danfodio. And that Nigeria continued to die and is even fully dead as at November 2021. Nigeria is a dead country by the actions of those at the corridors of power, by the criminal constitution that rendered citizens slaves in our ancestral lands. And so that Nigeria that Awolowo was talking about, late Chief Obafemi Awolowo was talking about, turned out to be a mirage. It was never meant to be. It was a mistake that is now begging to be corrected. In the year 2021, the call is much more louder now than it was even before 1957, 1960. Regional referendum is unavoidable now, and NINAS is right on the mark.
Corruption called Nigeria that must be tackled urgently. Everyone knows that Nigeria, as experimentally constituted in 1914 by the British colonial masters, has evolved into a full basket of problems, woes, miseries, and controversies for the indigenous peoples, who are mesmerized, confused, brutalized, and outrightly denied human rights on a daily basis. Nigeria is suffocating everyone in Nigeria. Children, youths, men and women, families are directly and indirectly affected. At the entrance gate of a university in South Africa, an inscription reads, "Destroying any nation or country does not require the use of atomic bombs or the use of a long-range missile. It only requires lowering the quality of education and allowing cheating in the examinations by students. The consequence is patients die at the hands of such doctors, buildings collapse at the hands of such engineers, money is lost at the hands of such economists and accountants. Humanity dies at the hands of such religious scholars. Justice is lost at the hands of such judges." So, the collapse of education is the complete collapse of a nation or a country. Nigeria, as a divergent ethnic nationalities forced to be in one political union, the center no longer have the capacity to hold together democratically, such as plastic union. So, because of this simple but complex reason, nation building is quite impossible in Nigeria. Indigenous peoples, their sovereignties, assets, and resources are being hijacked by the Fulani Caliphate through an imposed 1999 fraudulent constitution. So the Fulani Caliphate dominates and rules over the rest of us as infidels. The same Sharia Caliphate are also feudalists who believe that all men are not born equal and that they are born to rule over the rest of us in the toxic Nigerian Union. As a consequence of this feudalist worldview by the Sharia Caliphate, which translates to a master-slave society, the insistence by the rest of Nigeria on democracy, which is premised on the equality of all men, translates in the imagination of the Sharia Caliphate to a direct challenge on their master-slave worldview, and therefore an affront against the master by the slave, which is punishable by death. The situation to the majority of the people, the South and the middle belt of Nigeria precisely, therefore, is that of being guilty on two separate counts that each carry death penalty. A lot is very wrong with the current fraudulent constitution that does not allow for referendum for self-determination, Consequences on this fraud are lot of hunger, hardship, anger, unemployment, frustrations, killings, corruption, injustice, nepotism, subjugation, marginalization, insecurity, political rape, election manipulation, ethno-religious killings, economic conspiracy and strangulation, and so many other human casualties. All these woes are traceable to this 1999 fraudulent caliphate imposed constitution, and this is untenable. Another blindfolding ploy by the caliphate is to use a political game against the gullible politicians from the alliance territory of South and Middle Belt to go into elections in 2023. Some political actors from the alliance territories do not seem to sense the danger ahead by thinking that a slot for Southern presidency will solve the hydra-headed problems in Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria can't be solved by a president coming from southeast or southwest or wherever. Ninas is saying that all political parties should close shops. All political parties should close shops. And all politicians should retreat and surrender to the will of the peoples. All politicians should retreat and surrender to the will of the peoples. And they should be among the movement. They should join the movement of the peoples to decommission the fraudulent 1999 caliphate-imposed constitution because it is not paying any person good. And the people say no more elections under the current 1999 fraudulent caliphate-imposed constitution. The peoples say all the ethnic nationalities which make up the peoples say no more elections under the current 1999 fraudulent caliphate-imposed constitution. Power belongs to the people. Power belongs to the people. For more information and to learn more, visit the websites www.ninasvoice.org, www.ninasvoice.org, and the other one is www.lowernigercongress.org, www.lowernigercongress.org. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned in the Lower Niger Radio always and get more information, get more enlightened, and get more educated. Thank you. God bless you.
Ninas, where we came from, where we are, or the road to freedom. Today, we speak of Ninas, but know that the struggle for the restoration of our sovereignty did not start today. As a matter of fact, the struggle started almost as soon as the sovereignty of the ethnic nationalities was stolen by the imposition of the 1999 Constitution, which maintained a unitary government. With the end of the military regime and return to democracy, there was great hope that the country would be returned to what the people had voted for, and that existed prior to the military intervention in 1966. The hope of the country was dashed when, instead of a return to a federal governance structure with multiple self-governing and autonomous government with their own constitutions, the government was kept centralized in a federal government that kept all the power, the assets, and resources of the ethnic nationalities. Making things worse, this so-called constitution was not put to a referendum, and so was not made by the people. Deprive the citizens of their right to benefit contained in Chapter 2, made federal character unenforceable, gave the lion's share of the oil and other assets to the far north through a federal account sharing process that was exclusively weighted to favor the far north and make corruption official. Let me take you back over 2 decades of our journey. It all started when the military regime of General Abdul Salami Abubakar imposed a unitary 1999 constitution, which in turn was a wholesale rival of the 1979 constitution that was also known to be a victory charter for the Nigeria-Biafra War of 1967 to 1970. When it was made public a few weeks after inauguration of General Obasanjo as president, a better half of those in the legal profession gathered at several conferences and without much ado recognized the flaws, loopholes, and selfish intentions, then concluded that the constitution was not legitimate and would not lead Nigeria to any form of advancement. It was important that the mechanism or vehicle to set up a country-wide rejection of this forgery of a constitution was put in place. The journey commenced when in 2004, the Pro-National Conference Organization, PRONACO, was established to revoke the damaged federal constitutional basis of Nigeria. PRONACO being the People's Sovereign National Conference of Ethnic Nationalities in Nigeria, convened in all ethnic nationalities, and quickly mandated its representation to go back to their people and to come up with ratified draft of how they would want to participate in the Union of Nigeria. The conference sat in plenaries across the cities of Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Jos, and Kano, then returned to Lagos for the final sitting, and in participation, conveners in the likes of Anthony Ehanoro, Wole Soyinka, Chukwu Emeka Odumego Ojukwu, and similar leaders across the territories. This resolution was an agreement derived from the Composite People's Constitution as presented and defended by ethnic nationalities representation in those sequential conferences. And it is important to know that there were observers from the international community, including the US and European Union observers. In August 2006, a delegate from Castina moved the motion for adoption of the draft People's Constitution that emerged from the 29-point resolution of the conference. In furtherance of the PRONACO consensus to restore the federal basis of the Nigerian Union, in 2007, the Movement for a New Nigeria was set up as an enforcement of the consensus at the time to exclude the 12 contiguous northern states that had introduced and embraced the Sharia legal system against the secular basis for Nigeria. The Allies had insisted that democracy and Sharia system could not coexist in the same political space, hence the need for a new vehicle, the Movement for New Nigeria. On the 23rd of May 2007, MMN, through its legal counsel, filed a suit at the Federal High Court Abuja to challenge the legitimacy of the imposed 1999 Constitution, seeking the termination of the entire Constitution. At the court hearings, which had the Attorney General of the Federation representing the federal government, legal representation of the National Assembly, and others admitted the people case which they could not defend the challenge, but insisted that the plaintiff had no locus standi. In English, the plaintiff had no status at law to bring in the case to challenge the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. Having acknowledged that the restoration of the people's sovereignty did not need the participation or permission of government, the joint multi-regional vehicle instituted the MMN Lagos Declaration 30th of June 2011, by which the Allies partner blocks, the Lower Niger, South-South, and Southeast, the Yoruba land, and the Middle Belt publicly rejected the Caliphate-imposed 1999 Constitution, mandating regional self-determination actions which included referendum and international outrage. In furtherance to the mandate of the MMN Lagos Declaration, the people of the Lower Niger on the 27th of April 2015 held the solemn assembly in Port Harcourt City to wholly repudiate the 1999 Constitution. In that assembly, the 1,885 ethno-linguistic map of the Lower Niger was adopted as a geographical basis of federating. The assembly mandated the distillation of character of relationship as well as asset protection and guarantee scheme to protect the asset of the indigenous people in other blocks of Nigeria. On the mandate for international outrage of the MNN Lagos Declaration, and LNCT visited Capitol Hills, Washington, to make a case for the termination of the operation of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution at the special congressional event on Nigeria in May 2015. The team also made informal consultation for the same matter at the UN headquarters in New York in the same year. 2 years later, still in furtherance to mandate of the MNN Lagos Declaration, the Yoruba indigenous people held the Yoruba Solemn Assembly at Ibadan on the 7th of September 2017. The Assembly publicly repudiated the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation of Nigeria and proclaimed the self-determination right of the Yoruba land to reclaim autonomy of Yoruba land.
Did you know that Peter Afunanya is DSS spokesperson, Onyema Nwachukwu is Army spokesperson, and Frank Mba is police spokesperson?
They are serving as spokespersons to Nigeria's DSS, Army, and police, while the same forces are serving as occupation force, killing and burying people in mass graves in the southeast. They are joining the Fulani in making sure that the population of the southeast is reduced, and not just southeast, but in the south, southwest, and middle belt. They are continuing on genocide across Nigeria. These are the things that will see to Nigeria's end, and we want nothing other than a binding referendum that will take place across the Lower Niger Territory, Oduduwa land, and middle belt, to decide our future moving forward with Nigeria.
Waging an insurgency to try to overthrow the government and rid the country of Christians. Now human rights groups are asking the White House to stop the carnage. After losing ground in Syria and Iraq, the top general of U.S. Special Operations Command in Africa is warning that Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other Islamic terror groups are now trying to take over parts of the continent's most populous nation. Major General Dagvin Anderson says Muslim terrorists have set their sights on Nigeria's southern and northwestern regions, and the U.S. is now sharing specific intelligence with the country.
So this intelligence sharing is absolutely vital, and we stay fully engaged with the government of Nigeria to provide them an understanding of what these terrorists are doing.
Their goal? Eventually turn Nigeria into a Muslim country and force Christians, who make up half the country's population, to either leave or convert.
Christians are in the eye of the target, and they're coming after them.
And the numbers are staggering. August 6th, Muslims stormed 4 remote Christian villages in Kaduna State, killing 22 villagers. July 24th, 21 dead, scores injured, and several Christian homes destroyed by militants. July 19th, 19 people killed when assailants armed with guns and machetes attacked a wedding reception. And the list goes on. Leading human rights groups say what's going on in Nigeria is a genocide.
If you look at what's happened on the last 20 years, George, it's just massive number of attacks against Christians. Look, 50 to 70,000 have been murdered.
For years, the main terror group was Boko Haram, which seeks to overthrow the government here and create an Islamic state.
They go after Christians and moderate Muslims. They push a hard-line Muslim agenda. It is their intention to establish a caliphate and to just rid all of Nigeria and West Africa of any Western influence whatsoever.
Now, there's a new actor on the scene. In Nigeria's so-called Middle Belt region, where the Muslim North meets the Christian South, a terror group made up of Muslim Fulani herders are killing thousands of Christians. More than 1,400 Christians were hacked to death in just the first 7 months of 2020 by Fulani herders.
Unfortunately, the secular media are quite often biased and trying to present this as a tribal conflict rather than religious.
Nigeria's president, a Muslim, has so far done very little to stop the bloodshed. His police and army are also mostly made up of Muslims.
The attackers are never captured. They are not prosecuted. The security services respond very slowly. A full day can go on with attacks happening and no security shows up. And frequently, the government officials will provide cover.
Helpless and vulnerable to almost daily attacks, leading Catholic bishops are now urging Nigerian Christians to defend themselves. Human rights groups are asking the White House to appoint a special envoy to help end the persecution of Christians in Nigeria.
Unless the world takes note and puts pressure, economic pressure, sanctions, visa bans on the officials who are responsible for this travesty and for not reining in the terror, then Nigeria will continue to be a bloodbath.
Meanwhile, King's Group is helping more than 3,000 Christians who lost their businesses, homes, farms, or land to Boko Haram and Fulani militant attacks. International Christian Concern has created communal farms to give victims the opportunity to rebuild their lives.
When they get back to work, the family is fed, they have a future, the kids can go back to school. It's a restoration of hope. It really is. And it's much more than just economics. It's the whole community. It's all the parts of life, the emotional, the physical, the mental. It means a lot to them.
ICC and so many other groups trying to bring hope in the midst of all this devastation facing the Christians of Nigeria.
And they are doing it.
They are, absolutely.
Great story, George.
Thank you.
Coming up, new evidence.
Today from the Global Lane, the dictator topping this year's list as the worst persecutor of Christians.
The regime will take 3 generations of one family and stick them in prison for life. And these are prison camps that are designed to slowly kill off people.
Most expensive Thanksgiving meal ever. Will Biden's infrastructure deal slow skyrocketing inflation?
The truth is, it's not fully paid for, and as a result, it will turn out to be inflationary.
Coming soon to the University of North Dakota, gender-neutral dormitories.
If a male identifies as a female, he could essentially be assigned a female roommate.
And transgender indoctrination.
The princess who came to your ball tonight was me.
And FBI terrorism tools used against parents. And it's all right here on the Global Lane. Where do Christians suffer the worst persecution in the world? China, Iran, Somalia? International Christian Concern has just unveiled its 2021 report on the top persecutors of the year. ICC lists 3 top persecutors this year: the worst country, worst group of persecutors, and the worst individual persecuting Christians. Well, joining us to discuss this year's list and to explain about what's happening around the world is ICC President Jeff King. Jeff, it's good to talk with you again. So let's get right into it. The worst country persecuting Christians this year. Surprise, it's not North Korea. Which country is it and why?
Well, yeah, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, it's always going to be a top performer, right? But what we looked at was like how many Christians are being killed presently. Is it a problem that's not addressed? We chose Nigeria. It's a surprise for a lot of people. But Gary, in the last 20 years, 100,000 Christians have been killed. 3 million plus Christians have had their lands, farms, homes stolen from them. And the government is part of the problem. So we chose Nigeria.
Well, I know a lot of people say Nigeria, that's just Fulani herdsmen and so forth, but it goes well beyond that. Tell us a little more.
Well, this is the problem. We work in Washington, D.C., and we're working with the government. And so that's the line that comes from the Nigerian government. They want to frame this as a conflict between farmers and herders. It's not a conflict. It's a one-sided war. It's a genocide against Christians. There's Boko Haram also, but the Fulanis have done much more damage. The Fulanis are going in. These are armed groups that go in and shoot up Christian villages and take their land. And what's going on is it's a war that never ends, is never addressed. The Nigerian military never goes after the attackers. There's no arrests, there's no battles, there's nothing. And the reason is that, look, Muslims are in control of the police, the army, and the intel agencies. So the whole security apparatus of Nigeria is controlled by the Muslims. And so the fix is in is the phrase. It's like it never gets fixed. It's never addressed. Nothing ever happens.
Okay, Jeff, let's move on then and discuss the worst group persecuting Christians this year. It's not Boko Haram or Al-Shabaab. Who is it? What are they doing?
Well, it's the Taliban. And Gary, look, the Taliban has been, torturing, murdering Christians for years. The problem is that now they are in control of a state, and they have a potent intel security apparatus set up by us, but now they're in control of it. They're calling Christian leaders. We know you. We're watching you. We're going to come get you. They're going door to door. And unfortunately, just this past 2 weeks, they grabbed the first Christian. And what happens is they'll torture him. They'll find out who the other Christians are he knows. And then if he won't turn back to Islam, they'll kill him. And there's going to be a whole bunch of that.
Well, a lot to pray about on that. Now, the worst government leader or person persecuting Christians, it's not Canada's Justin Trudeau for shutting down churches and arresting pastors during the COVID pandemic. So which government leader did you list as the top persecutor targeting Christians, and why?
Well, you already nailed it. It's North Korea and it's Kim Jong-un. So either the country or he are going to show up in the top list. But look, the whole North Korean state exists to serve him and to keep him in power and the Kims in power. So we chose him as the individual doing the worst job against Christians, doing the most persecution against Christians. I think people know it, but look, if a Christian is caught with a Bible, if they're a real Christian, the regime will take 3 generations of one family and stick them in prison for life. And these are prison camps that are designed to slowly kill off people.
And of course, we know that you have to worship the leader there. Juche is their faith, and that's worship of their leadership. I know there are many other countries of concern, especially, let's say, India, where attacks against Christians are on the rise. Tell us what's happening there, Jeff.
Well, India is especially disturbing, Gary, because India has a constitution that guarantees religious freedom, and they have a tremendous track record. But what's happened is you have some hyper-nationalists, some fundamentalist Hindus that have gained control. The Prime Minister Modi, is a radical Hindu. His party, the BJP, these are radical Hindus. They believe quite fervently that India is only for Hindus, and in India and Hinduism are fused, and there's no room for anybody else, and they're doing everything they can to slowly strangle Christianity. You won't hear it from his lips. He's a smart politician. Listen to the BJP leaders, listen to his leaders in the party. You'll hear it quite clearly. They're not shy about it.
And Jeff, I know China and Pakistan, those are always places of concern. And you've been to many of these countries. You've met with many persecuted believers around the world. Which country really is driving you to your knees in prayer right now? Maybe what one should we keep our eyes on?
Well, I pray for Nigeria constantly. We do a lot of work with the victims there. The 3 million plus that have already lost everything. Their homes have been stolen. 70 to 100,000 killed. The government is part of the problem because, just like you said, the government says this is just herders and farmers. It's a conflict. It's nothing but, and they are complicit in the attacks on Christians.
Okay, I know that you're hoping this report will put more pressure on these governments to affect change. Jeff King, president of International Christian Concern. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing your time and insights. We appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Love you guys and what you're doing, Gary. Thank you so much.
God bless. If you're traveling over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house this Thanksgiving, or if you're staying home and preparing a meal, you and Granny will need more cash in your wallet for purchasing Thanksgiving food items. According to The Balance, you'll be spending 21% more this Thanksgiving than you did in 2020. And here are some cost increases to note for feeding a gathering of about 10 people. Potatoes, up more than...
Understand your role in society. You can never make any meaningful contribution. According to the Greeks, there are 3 types of people on earth: the idiots, the tribesmen and the citizens. My concern early here is that Nigeria may have been dominated by the idiots. Studies show only 10% of Africans are citizens. The remaining 90% are either tribesmen or idiots. When the Greeks used the word idiot, they did not use it as a curse word. Idiots are people who just don't care. If they write exams, they will cheat. If they are in government, they will steal. An idiot does not care at all. If he eats bananas, he throws the peels anywhere instead of putting them in a trash bin. According to the Greeks, some societies have more idiots than tribesmen and citizens. The next set of people are the tribesmen. These are people that look at everything from the point of view of their tribe. These are people that believe in you only if you are part of their tribe. It can be terrible to have a tribesman as a leader. He will alienate the rest. This perfectly captures Muhammadu Buhari and his mentality, his narrow worldview. When the Greeks talk about tribes, it's not just about ethnicity. They also consider a religion as a tribe. A great percentage of Africans are tribesmen because they view everything from the point of view of their tribes. They trust only their tribesmen. This is probably among some tribes, not all tribes. Number 4, the last group are the citizens. These are people that like to do things the right way. They will respect traffic light rules even if no one is watching them. They drive within speed limits. They respect the laws, won't cheat in exams. In government, they won't steal. They are compassionate and give to others to promote their well-being. Citizens often promote projects that benefit everyone. The Greeks call this group the citizens. Some countries have more citizens than tribesmen and idiots. Others have so many idiots. A tribesman can become a citizen through orientation, and an idiot can become a citizen by training and constant enforcement of the law. But things fall apart if you select an idiot or a tribesman to lead you if he has not been reformed. Wow. The interim chairman of APC once told us that Muhammadu Buhari was a reformed Democrat. That was a lie. So the disaster called Muhammadu Buhari could have been avoided if that man had actually spoken the truth timely enough to Nigerians. Nigerians allowed this dangerous man to get into office because of the lies of some party members. Wow. But things fall apart if you elect an idiot or tribesman to lead you if he has not been reformed. Where do you belong? Are you an idiot, a tribesman, or a citizen? Reflect about your life, reflect about your country and Africa in general before you answer. Food for thought.
Lower Niger Radio is your station for all the amazing topics on history, culture, and self-determination. We discuss ways we can solve our collective problems created for us by seen and unseen, known and unknown elements. We take you from the starting point to your destination. We promote and uphold our cultural, social, and moral values. Tune in today and listen to amazing personalities and be entertained as well. Lower Niger Radio is your voice of liberation for the peoples of Anang, Bini, Eshan, Efik, Ibibio, Igbo, Ishekiri, Ijo, Igede, Kalabari, Ubolo, Ogoja, Ogoni, Okrika, Urobo, and others. We bring you messages of hope, truth, and trust. Lower Niger Radio, your voice of liberation from slavery.
The land everywhere at every level. Somehow Buhari's regime has ushered in death in such a manner that no longer shocks, saddens, or some occasions, but never shocks anybody. On the streets, on the farms, in the villages, in towns and cities, in the woods, now schools and colleges. Even in churches, death has become a national totem, hanging in the Nigeria space and signifying the most tragic period in the country's history since the Civil War. If only current National Assembly had teeth and were alive to its responsibilities, for being fully rubber-stamped, the NAS shares in no small way the failure of this government. From all indications, the Buhari presidency has been at least complicit in various forms of death, and NAS has stood idly by and at times cheering when one hears a senator, Smart Adeyemi, on the floor of the state calling for Nigeria to invite a foreign power to take over internal security responsibilities of the government. One wonders if such a call was coming out of mischief or ignorance, or if the Murumili pandemic has hit the Senate. Which country outsources its sovereignty to a foreign power? Which foreign power is willing to send its boys and girls without cause to die patrolling the streets and woods of a foreign land? The Senate knows, or ought to know, that the impeachment and removal of even a threat thereof of a very incompetent president will bring a big change of attitude and policy, and some serious crackdown on insecurity with banishment of debt as a totem of our national policy. Such a change would be for the better, but sitting there with heads buried in the sand, speechifying hollow and meaningless anger insults our intelligence. Death came to Bowen, a school in Lagos, because the kids there see death on television every single day. It became the new normal for them. Here is Smart Adeyemi and what he had to offer. In fact, let's begin with the child that got killed in Lagos school. Had already been crippled before his family was called to come and pick him up. He couldn't stand on his feet before dying in a school where he's supposed to be taken care of. He was beaten down mercilessly. Nigeria is a death trap. Nigeria is a shame to humanity. Let's get to Smart Adeyemi's contribution to this.
I rise to support the motion. I'm Smart Adeyemi, and I represent the good people of Kogi West. And like Mr. President will attest to it, I personify the masses of this country. And each time I speak from the language of the man on the street. Mr. President, insecurity is a serious problem today in Nigeria. And there comes a time when you cannot but speak the truth, irrespective of the sentiments you may share. Today, Mr. President, all of us have been threatened. Our families, our nation, our state. Order. A lot have been said this morning, Mr. President, And I want to thank you for giving us time to speak expressly on this issue. Like my sister was saying, there comes a time when talk will talk itself. There comes a time when truth will become like a torchlight in the midst of silence. So you are forced to talk. Mr. President, we need not run away from the fact that more than ever before in the history of our nation, this is the worst instability we are facing. In fact, this is worse than the Civil War. Mr. President, the solution is very simple. Today there are a lot of misgiving, a lot of misinterpretations of what is happening. Some people believe, some people in government are supporting this move. Some people believe, some people sponsor those who are destabilizing our nation within the country. The answer is very simple. We cannot pretend that we are capable of confronting the situation in our hands. America, as powerful as they are, when the pandemic came, got to a point that China had to claim, they came to their rescue. We shouldn't pretend that we needed foreign support now. Let nobody deceive us, Mr. President. A lot of billions of naira have been voted for security services. Nothing is coming out of it. We wouldn't wait until our nation gets bombed. Let us shout and call for foreign support. I am a APC man and I've been supporting my party. But the president should get to know that it has gotten to a point that we who are supporters, who are members of the APC, we can no longer keep quiet. The president must rise to the occasion. You will not see the truth and you are afraid to say it because you will die. We must open, Mr. President. The nation is on fire. The president must rise to the occasion. It costs us nothing to get foreign support. We must rise to the occasion. We must bring in people to save this country, or else we will be consumed. Every one of us will have a chapter for history. Whenever the history of this period will be written, whatever is our position, we have a chapter. We cannot keep quiet any longer. It has gotten to a point that we cannot sleep with our two eyes closed. We are not free. Our children are not free. The president must rise to the occasion. There is no nation that is so powerful that doesn't need support of other nations. Individual cannot say you will leave the world without any other person with you. So we must rise. The situation is our security system has collapsed. It has failed. And because it has failed, we need to look for foreign support. It costs Nigeria nothing. Forget the ego, forget the superiority of Nigeria in African nation. Today, we are facing serious problems. If our nation is to survive this period, I'm not in doubt that the security architecture we have today cannot cope with what we are facing. Every part of this country is threatened. From the north to the south, nobody is safe. Nobody can travel 50 kilometers in our nation. I feel like shedding tears for a country that we grew up, where nobody has ever seen when you travel from Lagos to Maiduguri. I done it in time past. Today I cannot travel from here to Kaduna to Niger State where I was born. The president must know that this is a bad time for our nation. We must look for foreign support to save this nation. This is my position, Mr. President. We must rise to it. They are killing people in the east, in the west, in the south, in the north. We should shut down the National Assembly. Let's shut down. If we cannot save this country, we stay in our homes. Our country is bleeding. People are in poverty. There's no food. People are hungry. Insecurity is threatening us. We cannot pretend. It's better we're not here. Than for us sitting here, people are dying. Every day Nigerians are dying. We must rise to the occasion. As for me, Mr. President.
We are still dressing the surface of the wound without dealing with the core symptoms. Nigeria's problem is the constitution. Let's subject this country to referendum. It's a peaceful call. It's a democratic demand. Skirting around it cannot heal Nigeria. Skirting around it or trying to avoid it will not fix Nigeria. What will fix Nigeria for the long term? Referendum vote. And that's what Ninas is calling for. It will happen in the Middle Belt, in the Lower Niger Territory, and in the Oduduwa Nation. This is the most patriotic step to take. Unfortunately, do those in government have any chest for this? Are they even thinking? Or they are partying every day like nothing is going wrong with the country? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Western world may point to China now critically, pointing out what China is doing, how China is taking over countries' assets or institutions, over corrosive debts they hang on weak African countries that are constantly borrowing money and begging without producing enough to pay their debt or even become self-sufficient countries. Countries like Nigeria and a lot of others are becoming entrapped by Chinese dangerous debts. Because China knows what the Western country has done to Africa. They know how much Africa was manipulated, fleeced, and stolen from, and they continue to steal from Africa. And so China is doing their own bit. They are just advancing the fleecing of Africa with the aid of despots across Africa who are serving the interest of external forces rather than tend to the needs of their people.
China's activities in Africa have raised a lot of eyebrows, and the issue of being trapped into Chinese debt is real and ominous. Here, we look at the top 10 African countries with the largest Chinese debt. Whether the officials and government authorities accept it or not, Chinese dealings in Africa are being viewed in a highly skeptical way. The truth is, the menace of falling into Chinese debt trap is very real, and it is happening. Africa is slowly being tied to the yoke of Chinese debt. There is no transparency and accountability when it comes to acquiring Chinese loans. As a result of this, African countries are finding it hard to extricate themselves from the grip of Chinese debt. It means that debt is continuing to pile on, unabated, and the repercussions will be dreadful. Some countries are having it worse than others, as will always be the case. Below is a list of the top 10 African countries with the largest Chinese debt. Number 10, the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC could easily be one of the richest countries in the world considering how it is abundantly endowed with precious natural resources and minerals. However, plundering of these resources has set the country back, including unending conflict. It has an estimated debt of $3.4 billion. DRC was quick to exchange mineral resources for loans with China. Number 9, Ghana. Ghana stands at number 9 with an estimated debt of $3.5 billion. The country's opposition has involved the IMF to help look into the country's debt. Number 8, Nigeria. The West African country has an estimated debt of $4.8 billion. Nigeria has accepted the Chinese yuan as a reserve currency. Number 7, Cameroon. Cameroon has an estimated debt of $5.5 billion. However, it was recently revealed that China was in talks to cancel part of the country's debt. But with China, nothing is so certain. Number 6, Zambia. Zambia is increasingly getting mired in the tentacles of Chinese debt. The Chinese have sponsored a lot of projects in the country. The country has an estimated debt of $6.5 billion. China is taking Zambian firms as part of repayment plans, and there were reports that ZESCO, the national power utility, was being taken over by China, even ZNBC, the country's national broadcaster. Number 5, North Sudan. The conflict-torn country has an estimated debt of over $6.4 billion. Although China has written off the country's debt incurred in 2015, it still has a long way to go. Number 4, the Republic of Congo. Congo, which may be popularly known as Congo-Brazzaville, has an estimated debt of $7.5 billion. Again, corruption has played a major role in ballooning the debt to such egregious levels. Number 3, Kenya. Even after the discovery of oil in the northern part of the country, nothing in essence is working towards cutting down the levels of debt to China. Kenya has an estimated debt of $7.9 billion. The country has been taking money to facilitate the fruition of its infrastructural projects. But as lack of transparency and accountability come into play, a lot of money has been lost to corruption. Number 2, Ethiopia. All those Chinese infrastructural development projects in Addis Ababa are coming at a heavy price. Ethiopia has an estimated debt of $13.5 billion. The debt levels have slowed down some projects due to repayment issues, but there is now a new structure for these debts that makes it a little bit affordable for Ethiopia to repay. And finally, at number 1 we have Angola. Angola is the most indebted African country to China. It has an estimated debt of over $25 billion. Shocking, but that's the reality at hand. Most of Angolan oil is going towards the repayment of Chinese debts, despite Angola being the second largest producer of oil in Africa. That brings us to the end of this video. Share your comments in the section below. Remember to support China's activities in Africa.
So Ethiopia used part of the money they are owing China to build the railway that stretched from Djibouti to Addis Ababa upon the departure of Eritrea out of Ethiopia, because Eritrea is what used to give Ethiopia, the old Ethiopia, access to the sea, to the Nile. And so once Eritrea left Ethiopia through one referendum and the eventual referendum about 2 decades plus ago, Ethiopia became a landlocked country, and they had to build that rail track that traveled from Addis Ababa to Djibouti. That's how they get their containers and other shipments, through the rail, just like Uganda, that is equally landlocked, that gets her containers through the ports in Kenya. One of them is Mombasa. And so countries can survive even when they are landlocked. We can stop the Chinese onslaught against Africa by going through referendum in Nigeria. That's how we'll sort our problem there. Otherwise, those people going cap in hand, borrowing, looking for money, looking for air to share, money to share, in a country that has 3 million crude oil barrels every day they supply to the rest of the world, they are still beggars. Terrible people. They have destroyed Nigeria and rendered it a miserable country. You know, a country that is supposed to be given aid to other African countries is constantly borrowing, putting future generations into debt without any commensurate infrastructure to show for it. Sucks to be nice.
Lower Niger Radio is your station for all things about self-determination, nation building, and liberty. With all the challenges and insecurity in our ancestral lands, the survival of our peoples and the political arrangements they decide on is our goal. We discuss solutions. We bring you messages of hope, truth, and trust. So, tune in today. Lower Niger Radio is the voice of liberty for the ethnic nations of the South, South, and Southeast. We are here for the peoples of Anang, Bini, Isan, Efik, Ibibio, Igbo, Ishekiri, Ijo, Igede, Kalabari, Obolo, Ogoja, Ogoni, Okrika, Urubo, and all the others. Lower Niger Radio, your voice of liberty.
With the work NINAS is doing, the old issue of trust and suspension among the ethnic nationalities has been reduced to the barest minimum, as every indigenous ethnic nationality has been empowered to obtain her sovereignty and run as fast as possible to establish their people's self-determination. Things have changed and are changing. It's new dispensation. It's a new era. As we organize our people according to the UN standard of operation, once an information comes out, please let's think of how we can benefit from it as a people. Once your people are okay in their ancestral land, collectively we will be okay and empowered to drive out all aggressors. The indigenous peoples have the common core value of all men being born equal and have right to life. The aggressors do not. So please let this be the focus and let's fight this bloodless war together and fast too. Thanks. Check out NINAS on Facebook, on YouTube, on the internet, www.ninasvoice.org. Here's Abakoya's position today on Deadline, Ibadan, December 2nd, 2021. Constitutional grievances, union dispute, and countdown to the enforcement of the people's will. Abakoya declaring that no further national elections in Yoruba land under the fraudulent 1999 constitution, whilst demanding the immediate release of Sunday Igboho and rejecting any increase in petroleum prices. Between December 2020 to December 2021, the NINA CFM Constitutional Force Majeure implementation has moved from enlightenment to mobilization, and it's now heading to the enforcement threshold. Here is Abakoya on their release earlier today.
Wọ́n ní àwọn ọlọ́pàá àbáwọn kiri kan ní wọn gbọ́dọ̀ jáde àgbọ̀gbọ̀ bí wọ́n jáde àlàpàdé kò sí ẹni tó lè kojú kìnìún nínú igbó. Agbẹ́kọ̀yà fi àsìkò yìí yàtọ̀ sí lẹ́tà tá a fún àwọn kábíyèsí wa a sọ fún wọn pé constitution yẹn ẹnìkan ò lè máa yẹn nìkan jẹ àwọn alákàwé tù ní Nàìjíríà Haúsá kan wà lè máa jọ ìdálé wa lórí lójoojúmọ́ lọ kádápẹ́. Constitution wa tí ọba lè tẹ́gbọ̀n wọn lè lo 1960 láti lọ bàbá owó lọ́wọ́ kí wọ́n jẹ́ ká jókòó ká ṣe constitution mi láì ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ kò ní sípò 2023 o. ohun ohun tá a ṣe lénìí tá a torí ẹ̀ dálé lórí ni pé kí ìjọba àpapọ̀ ìjọba Nàìjíríà kó lọ bá ìjọba Benin àti ìjọba Benin àti Nàìjíríà kan fọ torí koríko kí wọ́n fi Sunday Igboho sílẹ̀. Sunday Igboho kì í ṣe kírímínà. Sunday Igboho kì í ṣàpànìyàn. Sunday Igboho kì í ṣe kidnapper. Sunday Igboho ó ń gbìjà aráàlú ni nítorí pé insecurity yìí ó ti pọ̀ jù. Kò sábò tó péye ní Nàìjíríà. Ohun tí Sunday Igboho ṣe nìyẹn kí wá ṣe pé ó ti wá di ọ̀daràn. Ìkéde ìkejì fuel price yẹn nípa epo rọ̀bì tá a lò kí wọ́n má try láti increase ẹ̀. Kí wọ́n má try láti increase ẹ̀. Kí wọ́n má try láti increase fuel price. Ìkẹta kidnapper kí kálukú sá lọ Àgbẹ̀kọ̀yà ti jáde. Kí gbogbo kidnapper sá lọ ráúrá báyìí. Gbogbo South West gbogbo tó bá gbà la máa fún gbogbo wọn báyìí. Ìkẹrin ebi ń pa aráàlú. Buhari ebi ń pa aráàlú. Èmi ò mọ nǹkan kan tẹ́ ẹ ṣe. Ẹ jẹ́ kára ó ní kára aláàrú kára dẹ̀ wọ́n. Tẹ́ ẹ bá ń kọ̀ntínú báyìí. Kò dáa. Ìkẹrin restructuring. Constitution tá à ń lò kò dáa. Constitution degree àwọn sójà. Ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣe constitution mi tẹ́ bá fẹ́ ti 1960. Ẹ lè máa continue kí ìyà máa jẹ wá. Gbogbo Boko Haram lẹ ti fi lẹ̀. Gbogbo Boko Haram lẹ ti fi lẹ̀ fi Sunday Igboho lẹ̀. Sunday Igboho ọ̀pààyàn kò ṣe kankan. Tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá wá fi Sunday Igboho lẹ̀. Restructuring ó ṣe pàtàkì. Ẹ jẹ́ ká restructure Nàìjíríà. Ẹ jẹ́ ká restructure Nàìjíríà. Ẹ jẹ́ ká padà sófin 1960. Àwa akàwé amọ̀ntí ń lọ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ju gbogbo yín lọ. Àfófin amúnisìn. Àfẹ́kẹ́nìkan máa fẹ́rù kan ṣẹ́rú. Ajáde tán báyìí ní àbẹ̀rù yín o. Ọlọ́run ọba nìkan lẹ bẹ̀rù. Ẹ lè pa àyàn kẹ́ ẹ tún jí. Ẹ tí ẹ lè pa wá. Ẹ lè dàgbẹ́kọ̀yà mú. Olúwa ń gbọ́. Tí ẹ bá fẹ́ ká jáde tán, á jáde tán tá a tán pẹ̀lú yín. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, àbẹ̀rù, àwa ò gbọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀sùn. Ìgbésẹ̀ àwọn àgbààgbà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, àwọn kan wọ́n ṣàwọlé.
Between December 2020 to December 2021, the NINA CFM Constitutional Force Majeure implementation has moved from enlightenment to mobilization and is now heading to the enforcement.
Nigeria, jaga, everything scatter. Come on, they suffer. Bossa, gunshot in the air.
I beg, which kind abomination be this one? Where common manager for company go carry the owner, tie am with rope, throw am inside prison and take over in business. Where you don't see this kind of abomination before? Hey, only for Naija. True. It don't dey sure back say Nigeria no dey ruling people well. The country no dey benefit anybody. Na im make Nigeria dey crawl for belle like snail. They follow other small country them for back. Na im make them dey call us the capital of poverty in the world. Chai! Shame on Nigeria. I beg. Enough is enough. Because of this reason, the indigenous ethnic nationalities of Middle Belt and the South, under the umbrella of the Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, they don't join together on 16 December 2020 to declare a constitutional force majeure, CFM, over a sovereignty quarrel, where then they ask only two questions. One, which time we take submit ourselves, our land, our assets, even our natural treasure into the force by force Nigeria Union. Hey, which time self we follow make for ourselves the year 1999 Nigeria Constitution. All na lie, all na story, na daylight robbery be this yo. But we get work to do for inside all this matter. Oh yeah, this one na must to make we join hand sharp now with the Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. Now then won't tear down that fraudulent lie 1999 Constitution so that that we can forward march and start a new beginning for everybody. I beg, make we join together to sign that petition where we title End Apartheid Nigeria by restoring the self-determination rights of ethnic nationalities. E dey for all media platform of Daughters of Truth, BVI Channel 1, Heritage TV UK, and www.freedomfromnigeria.com. If you sign this petition, Ekwa, na him be say you don't follow more than 20 million signature them where we dey collect for take show the United Nations. Remember say, na only us fit free ourselves from the oppression, repression, marginalization, and subjugation which the Nigerian country don't carry jam him own people for head. Now the Voice of Liberty International bring on this story.
For delivering uncolored report on the NSAS shooting at Lekki on October 20th, 2020, members of the panel are now getting essentially targeted by agents of Nigerian government. They are being unfairly persecuted already just for coming out with their report that heavily indicted the government of liars. Since the submission of the NSAS panel report to the governor of Lagos State on November 15th, 2021, members of the panel have become subject of vicious attacks by those suspected to be agents of the government. All manner of allegations have been heaped upon panel members, some of whom have been called unprintable names. I can confirm that no member of the panel lobbied to be appointed into the panel. As a matter of fact, in my own case, His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, appealed to me to accept my appointment, which I saw as a call to national service. The primary reason the governor gave to me then was that he wanted men and women of integrity, independent and not subject to manipulation, to be on the panel. Just today, my attention has been drawn to an interview by a senior counsel to the Lagos State government to the effect that panel members collected bribe in the course of the assignment. It is unfair, ungodly, and least expected of the government and its lawyers. The Lagos State government asked for 2 weeks to enable it to release a white paper on the report submitted to it by the panel, and we have been waiting, but it would seem that the Lagos State government has now unleashed mindless propaganda upon panel members, whilst at the same time asking for restraint from the general public. I have in my custody certified true copies of all proceedings of the panel and all exhibits tendered before the panel in respect of the Lekki 2 Gate investigation. I urge the government to call its agents and lawyers to order so as not to provoke aggravated responses. It is unfair to seek to denigrate people's hard-earned reputation on account only that they accepted to render selfless service at the behest of government. If the government and its agents are not restrained from attacking others, nothing stops us from defending our integrity. I should not become a victim of unwarranted attack just because I accepted to serve the government and the outcome of that assignment did not favor the expectations of the government. Suffice it to mention that I worked with men and women of unblemished integrity, and am proud to be associated with them all. I therefore appeal to His Excellency the Governor of Lagos State, Sanwo-Olu, to call all agents of state to order and keep to his promise to us to release a white paper within 2 weeks and to send the unedited report of the panel to the National Economic Council. Signed by Ebun Olu Adegboruwa, SAN, Lagos, Lekki, Lagos, November 18, 2021. And so Nigeria now will resort to attacking the panel members like they didn't deliver the kind of manipulated report they were most likely hoping for. The report has turned out to be a huge embarrassment to the government, to the military, to the police, to the federal government and their agents, especially Lai Mohammed and the rest of them who has been in denial, lying and continuing in their lying ways. So here is a panel member now coming public, exposing the hypocrisy that is the Nigerian system, that system that is condemned never to work well. Very sad. Sucks to be Nigeria. Here's a press statement from Nina's Alliance. Nina's Alliance is intact and focused on its stated mission, despite the resignation of its erstwhile chairman, Professor Banji Akintoye, and the exit of his faction of Ilana Omo-Oduwa. This is a statement by Nina's Board of Conveners issued December 1st, 2021. Gentlemen of the press, an emergency conclave of the Conveners of Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, was held today, December 1, 2021, to review, amongst other things, recent developments in one of our alliance organizations, Ilana Omo-Oduwa, the resignation of Professor Banji Akintoye from the chairmanship of NINAS, and the exit of his faction of Ilana Omo-Oduwa from the NINAS Alliance. This statement is to address the deluge of inquiries that was poured into the NINA Secretariat from concerned members of public regarding these developments. 1. Let us recall that the Secretariat of NINAS, while reaching out to all sides involved, had on the 18th of November 2021 issued a statement to calm altercations arising from an Ilana Omo-Oduwa press conference addressed November 18, 2021 by the Deputy Chairman of Ilana Omo-Oduwa, Otumba Shade Olukoya, concerning months of lingering difficulties within Ilana Omo-Oduwa, bordering on certain actions and liaisons of the leader of Ilana Omo-Oduwa, Professor Banji Akintoye, that could imperil the self-determination campaign of Ilana Omo-Oduwa, inviting Professor Akintoye, therefore, to step back from his role as Ilana leader in order to abet the many conflicts and controversies emanating from the aforementioned actions and liaisons. 2. While frantic mediation efforts were still being made by the Secretariat to douse tension, Maxwell Adeleye, who described himself as Communications Director of Ilana Omo-Oduwa, issued and massively circulated in the media outlandish falsehoods in which he avoided the well-known issues rocking Ilana Omo-Oduwa and claimed, amongst other things, that the sum of $350 million naira was disbursed by Abuja to procure the Ilana press conference of November 18, 2021. Adeleye also deliberately created the impression that NINAS was somehow behind the Ilana press conference of November 18, 2021. 3. Unfortunately, and to our utter shock, Professor Banji Akintoye, who knew for certain that these claims of Maxwell Adeleye were just fabrications, went on to corroborate the fabrications in a virtual meeting of a Yoruba global audience the next day, putting names and motives to Maxwell's falsehoods. In that virtual meeting, Professor Akintoye said that the money from Abuja came from Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and given to Otumba Shade Olukoya for the purpose of dragging him, Akintoye, off the stage. To compound matters, Professor Akintoye went on to allege that Otumba Olukoya had been pressuring them in Ilana to help work Vice President Yemi Osinbajo into becoming the next president of Nigeria. We do hope that Professor Yemi Osinbajo will take up this matter with those who crafted and circulated this tale. 4. The statement issued by Maxwell Adeleye on behalf of Professor Akintoye and 43 others, November 30, 2021, conveying the resignation of Professor Banji Akintoye from the chairmanship of NINAS, as well as the exit of his faction from Ilana Omo-Oduwa from the NINAS Alliance. Even more egregious falsehoods. I'll go over that 4 again. The statement issued by Maxwell Adeleye on behalf of Professor Akintoye and 43 others, November 30, 2021, just yesterday, conveying the resignation of Professor Banji Akintoye from the chairmanship of NINAS, as well as the exit of his faction of Ilana Omo-Oduwa from the NINAS Alliance, contained even more egregious falsehoods. The false impression was deliberately created by the said November 30, 2021 statement that there was a type of self-determination being pursued by NINAS and LNC that was different from the type that Ilana Odua was pursuing. This is strange because the objectives, roadmap, and strategy outlines of NINAS are very clearly stated in all of NINAS public communications over the years, particularly the December 16, 2020 NINAS Constitutional Force Majeure Proclamation. Combined with the earlier falsehood that Abuja had procured the November 18, 2021 press conference, it is clear that the orchestrations of the departed faction of Ilana were targeted at deceiving the public into believing that NINAS was somehow working for other objectives apart from its clear-cut and unwavering pursuit of self-determination for all the indigenous nationalities of the Alliance territories, being the South and Middle Belt of Nigeria. Number 5. For the records and for the avoidance of doubt, Professor Banji Akute was first introduced sometime in 2018 to NINAS by Otumba Shade Olukoya, who had been involved with the processes for many years. While our initial discussions were going on, the emergence of Atiku Abubakar on the as the presidential candidate with restructuring credentials, unquote, sucked in a great number of people towards the 2019 election in what became known as articulation at the time. And so it was that our new associate, Professor Banji Akitoye, went off with his other associates in the articulation gambit. We moved on to the historic NINAS Joint Multi-Regional Freedom Park Proclamation of December 11, 2018, which firmly set the basis for the Constitutional Force Majeure of December 16, 2020. The engagements with the policy beltways of Washington, D.C. took the whole of January to July of 2019 and was followed by the August 2019 visitation of the UN Special Rapporteur on Nigeria into Nigeria to investigate widespread extrajudicial killings. It was only in the last quarter of 2019 that Professor Akitoye contacted Otumba Shade Olukoya to fully join the NINAS fold. The chairmanship of NINAS fell on him on account of the zeal, clarity, and commitment he displayed towards the NINAS propositions. It is therefore not true that Professor Akitoye provided leadership for NINAS since inception, as claimed by Maxwell in his November 30th, 2021 statement. Professor Akitoye came 2 years ago into a process that took over 22 years to get to where it is now. There is no doubt whatsoever that Professor Banji Akitoye meritoriously advanced the NINAS campaign, particularly in Yoruba land, reaching out to his associates across the country and substantially shattering the long-standing jinx around the Igbo-Yoruba collaboration, which he said was Chief Obafemi Awolowo's solemn prescription in the last days of the sage, who was Professor Akitoye's political mentor. Credit for this feat will forever go to Professor Akitoye, and we wish him good health and longevity, even as he veers off in another direction in search of the destination we all identified in NINAS. 6. In closing, the NINAS Board of Conveners is pleased to announce to all the organizations across the South and Middle Belt of Nigeria which have been clamoring to join NINAS Alliance that modalities has been in place to admit all organizations that publicly and fully subscribe to propositions and prescriptions of the December 16, 2020 NINAS Constitutional Force Majeure Proclamation into regional delegations to NINAS. I'll go over 6 again. It's not done. In closing, the NINAS Board of Conveners is pleased to announce to all the organizations across the South and Middle Belt of Nigeria, which has been clamoring to join NINAS Alliance, that modalities has been in place to admit all organizations that publicly and fully subscribe to propositions and prescriptions of the December 16, 2020 NINAS Constitutional Force Majeure Proclamation into regional delegations to NINAS. These modalities will be made public in the second week of December 2021 by the NINAS Secretariat. Signed for NINAS Board of Conveners, Tony Nadi, the Convening Secretary, December 1, 2021.
I wanna go my way, merciful Lord. I wanna go my way, Almighty Jah. Show me the way now, oh Lord. Show me the way now, oh Jah. Show me the way now, oh Lord. Show me the way now, oh Jah. Show me the way now, oh Lord. Show me the way now, oh Jah. Show me the way now, oh Lord. Show me the way now, oh Jah. It's been a long, long time. I've been struggling day and night. Oh Lord, instead of I go down and I bright future, I've been waiting for too long a time. Hey, show me, oh Lord, show me my way, merciful Jah. Show me the way now. Jah, Jah, Yahweh, Shaddai, you are my light, you are my sunshine, Lord. Show me the way now. I have lived the life of a lost child. Show me the way now. Oh Lord, show me the way. Yeah. Show me the way now. I have lived the life of a lost child. No one to call my eye very old now. Show me the
That shall not kill.
I war. Show me the way now. Show me the way now. I have lived the life of a lost child, Lord. Yada, Yahweh, Shaddai, show me my way, oh Lord. Show me, oh Lord. Hey, I've been looking forward to see my way through. Jaja, Lord. Show me the way now. Jaja, Yahweh, Shaddai, you are my sunshine, you are my light, Lord. Show me the way now. I have been struggling day and night, merciful Lord. Show me the way now. Show me. Oh Lord, oh, show me the
If you're thinking about selling a house anywhere within the Greater Toronto Area, this message is especially...
Now, here is why it gets really interesting. An MPA chairman drags Buhari before Abuja court over 1914 amalgamated treaty. The Nigerian Bar Association chairman, Ilesha branch of Osun State, Barrister Komi Ajibola, has dragged President Muhammadu Buhari to the Federal High Court, Abuja, over the president's refusal to release to him the certified copies of 1914 Amalgamated Treaty and 2014 Confab report, the one convoked by Goodluck Jonathan. Ajibola had, through a letter dated September 22nd, 2021, and acting based on the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act 2011, asked the president to release the said documents to him within 7 days. The human rights lawyer who filed the suit asked the court for an order of mandamus compelling the president to make available certified true copies of Nigeria Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 and Nigerian 2014 National Conference report. Besides, Ajibola in the suit number FHC/ABJ for Abuja/CS/1425/21 asked the court to compel President Buhari to supply information on why the federal government will not convene the national conference where Nigerians will be given free and fair opportunity to discuss issues relating to the unity and harmony of one indivisible and indissoluble sovereign country. This is my comment. I have never seen anywhere any country is described as indivisible and indissoluble sovereign country. I mean, this is impossible. Nigeria did not fall from heaven. Nigeria is the work of, like, the creation of people. It was a business of the UK. And then we, the indigenous people, are beginning to wake up from our slumber. And then we're asking questions, what's going on? This is not right. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Let's get our people involved. Let's go to our people, ask our people, what do they want? Do they want to be like? Do they want Nigeria to continue going this way, or they want something better? Do they want a better deal? Do they want to, like, see real true change happen to them? In the middle belt, in the lower Niger territory, that is the former, the current southeast and south and we need a binding multi-regional referendum, a vote, a very simple democratic demand. It's a democratic process. We cannot just force ourselves, being together when it's not working, it's not going anywhere. According to him, based on the present circumstances where there are breakdowns in the nation's governance with insecurity, nepotism, terrorism, and unemployment, among others, the court should decide if Nigerian people can still continue to live in unity and harmony as one country and on what terms and conditions. This guy is essentially telling us what Lower Niger Congress, NINAS, Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, has been all about over the years till this moment and until the mission is accomplished. He also asked the court to compel President Buhari to convene a national conference where Nigerians will have a free and fair opportunity to discuss and resolve issues based on the indivisibility of the country. Again, I reject this word, indivisibility. No country is beyond division. Not on this world, not in this planet. There is no country that is to be said to be beyond discussion, that there should be no discussion about its existence, about its continued as is. If there are areas within that country that doesn't feel like belonging, that should be a reason for referendum. Canada did it some years back. In Quebec, Quebec voted to separate. Their vote failed by 1% maybe. Something with Scotland. Countries vote for this is a democratic process. British people do it. They do it in Canada. They do it in UK. They do it in Europe. In fact, Britain is the last country that seceded. Britain essentially voted and separated from the European Union. They are still coexisting. They are not after each other's lives. They are still doing business together. They are still relating. They are still members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. They still do other businesses together. There is no fighting between them. He also asked the court to compel President Buhari to convene a national conference where Nigerians will have free and fair opportunity to discuss and resolve issues based on the indivisibility of the country, rotational presidency, and other acts of governance. He particularly mentioned issues relating to the Igbo nation, where he alluded that there was a calculated plan to treat them as an outcast out of the nation's presidency. The NBA boss said he was in court because by the placement of the constitutional duty, every citizen of the country has the right to make positive and useful contributions to the advancement, progress, and well-being of the community where he resides. 100%. No date has yet been fixed for the suit filed on Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. Let me say that there has been other suits that were filed many years ago. The Nigerian government has only gone to court to block those cases from moving forward because they have no credible counter to those demands. And it has always been about the unworkability of Nigeria. Now, what we have at hand is referendum. Let those that have ears hear and react to it and respond and continue to ask for information on where to go to find direction. Ndi Igbo, I'm an Igbo person. Ndi Igbo are not asking for rotational presidency. We are asking for referendum vote against current constitution of 1999 upon which Nigeria is operating. We are asking for referendum, a binding referendum vote for Ndi Igbo to vote on whether to continue in Nigeria, along with in the South and all Middle Belt and Oduduwa land. All these people are asking for referendum vote, not rotational presidency, not president of Igbo extraction, because in a functional Igbo land, in a functional Lower Niger territory, in a functional Middle Belt and Southwest or Oduduwa nation, citizens from any other country that decides to move to Lower Niger territory and nationalize and become a citizen can vie for the presidency of the Lower Niger territory. And I believe Oduduwa nation will equally consider citizens of theirs from any other part of the world that supports the existence of the nation and is obedient to the rules will contest for the presidency of Oduduwa land, as long as it is for the progress of those regions. So we are not interested in Nigeria's presidency. Maybe I'm deflecting the tires of the one Nigerianists, especially the Nzuko people, among others. They are behind the visit by Chief Amechi Mbazulike to the presidency begging for Nnamdi Kanu's release. They are behind that disgraceful visit because it reduced us greatly in a way they probably never thought about. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But we need a binding referendum. Let's make Nigeria better. That's the way to do it better. Let's go for referendum. Fix a date and give enough time to educate our people on what is to come. And they will go for it. Sudan did it. Yes, they are still having problem on both sides of the divide, but it's okay. Whoever finds the way out first will get better. Whether it's South Sudan or North Sudan, they should figure it out. But in our own case, we also need to trigger that process to start figuring it out because we're not getting anything. Former Minister of Foreign Affairs Professor Bolaji Akinyemi yesterday argued that Nigerians would be disappointed if they were expecting the United States to treat the country the same way it treats Israel. Akinyemi was speaking against the backdrop of a threat by the United States to invoke the Leahy Statute against Nigeria if there are established cases of human rights violations against the military and police, as opposed to its measured silence on alleged cases of similar breaches by the Israeli government. Now, this is my take here. If the case of Nigeria is to be compared with that of Israel, and then you consider the fact that Israel is fighting for her very existence against those that would want to destroy the country and wipe it off the map, it means that internally in Nigeria, Nigerians are faced with a very dangerous system whereby those in government are the enemies of Nigerians. And they are using the instrument of state to kill Nigerians who are demanding for the right leadership, who are demanding for respect for their own lives. So how do you compare the two? Anyway, Bolaji Akinyemi continues. He said this during an interview on The Morning Show, a program monitored on Arise News Channel. This day's broadcast arm. The renowned professor of international affairs stated that the dynamics of the relationship between the United States government and those of Nigeria could not be compared. Some security experts recently described the development as a clear case of double standard, as the United States had said Nigeria risked arms embargo for alleged violation of the laws on armed conflicts in the fight against banditry, terrorism, and other forms of violence in different parts of the Federation. Speaking in an interview with CNN International after a tour of some African nations, including Nigeria recently, the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken had said that his country would apply the laws against Nigeria if the allegations were found to be credible. However, while being very critical of Nigeria, the United States was said to have vetoed over 50 United Nations Security Council UNSC resolutions critical of Israel since 1972. During the last escalation of violence between Israel and the Palestinians, the U.S. had, according to reports, stuck to same playbook, blocking a joint statement calling for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Several resolutions condemning violence against Palestinian protesters and the illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank were also reportedly thwarted by the U.S. Of course, we also have laws in place. The Leahy Law, for example, that makes sure that if there are units that have committed abuses, we're not going to provide equipment to those units. If there is genuine transparency, accountability, and change that follows from these incidents and these abuses, I think that is very important, not only to our administration, it is also important to the U.S. Congress in making judgments about continuing to assist the security forces, Blinken had explained. But Akinyemi, during the interview, maintained that Nigeria would continue to be disappointed if it expected the same treatment given by the United States to Israel, stressing that the Jewish people in America are a very strong voice to be reckoned with. Again, here is my take. The Jewish people in the United States indeed are a voice to be reckoned with. Are the Nigerians in the United States voice for Nigeria, or they are actually exposing the crimes of the Nigerian government against the people of Nigeria? See the difference? The difference is so clear. The voices that are now coming out, Nigerian voices, are on side with the people of Nigeria, the indigenous people. They are the ones that were protesting in the US, and Nigeria went to recruit foreigners, paid demonstrators to counter the genuine aspirations of Nigerians at the UN. He said, look, you will only break your heart if you expect the United States to treat you the way it treats Israel. This is not hate speech on my part. I know better than to do that. But Jewish voters in the United States are very, very critical to the electoral success, especially in presidential elections. And there is no presidential candidate and no administration that goes out of its way to antagonize Israel or to do anything that may be perceived by the Jewish voters as being inimical to Israeli interests. They have a powerful voice in the media, which they will be prepared to use. I wouldn't mention names, so there will be no ad hominem attacks on my part. But there are powerful voices. There is one of the global media in the United States which work for Jewish interests, public interest organizations. They won't put it out there. But if you go and look at their profile, which would have been removed, so you would think that they are neutral, whereas they are not neutral. Like hawks looking after its chicks, those voices are looking out for Israeli interests. Akiyemi argued that Israel remained one of the few countries in the world that can afford to be rude to America without serious repercussions. Reason why a former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was rude to former President Barack Obama, who was perceived as not being pro-Israel enough. So there is no basis for you to try to differentiate between American attitude to Nigeria and American attitude towards Israel. That difference is very, very clear, he explained. He said it was a positive move by the Biden administration to remove Nigeria from the list of countries that muffle religious freedom, in line with the new American government's branding of being seen as highly democratic. He stressed that the State Department of the United States had probably found out that the terrorists were killing both Muslims and Christians in the north, reason the country's name was removed from the list of countries of particular concern, CPC. Everybody can see that that churches, mosques, reverend fathers, students in Christian schools as well as students in Muslim schools are all being brutalized, he stated, but added that there is not a doubt that there were religious issues in Nigeria. What the department is probably saying is that we share equally the sufferings of the two religious groups that we have, he posited. On pledges made by the United States during the African tour, he said, recall what I said earlier, which is that Americans are first-class speech writers and you've got to deconstruct what you are talking about for the real meaning of what they are saying. However, he said that Nigeria remained an important voice in Africa, stressing that despite the battery Nigeria's economy has received, the country cannot be ignored. Nigeria is self-destructive. There is no two way about it. Nigeria is a country at war against itself. Current government of Major General Muhammadu Buhari is the #1 enemy of Nigeria because they are working overtime to set the country on fire while thinking that they are flexing, that they are fighting to remain relevant. The intention in Nigeria is to permanently take over the entire political space. Using the combination of brute force and guile, the caliphate strategy is to maintain tight control of political power via the imposed constitution by the key economic assets and levers of power are confiscated. Recent constitutional impositions guarantee exclusive control of military power and all firearms, and those are used to facilitate the terror against the ethnic nationalities by the government and the terrorists. The North do not mean well for Nigeria. NINA's alliance repudiates everything about the 1999 Constitution. In the face of the alliance defeat of the Caliphate title deed, which is the Constitution of 99, they already the rest of Nigeria to another round of elections in 2021 under the repudiated 1999 Constitution is the only viable strategy left in the hands of the Caliphate now. It's up to us to defeat them and make sure that they never rise up again. The alliance mechanism is to tackle the North. The alliance mechanism is exploiting the aforesaid delegitimization of the 1999 Constitution. Let us win the war peacefully. Stop the march towards elections of 2023. All political parties must shut down now if they are really for the people and not for themselves. Club and Clubhouse is pleased to be involved in promoting justice and in being part of bringing about true with the people democracy in the Nigerian space. So we are hosting the NINAS Movement's virtual town hall meetings over 2 weeks and starting at 7:30 p.m. Nigeria time on Friday, 3rd December 2021. The topic is 4 frauds that are fatal for the 1999 Constitution, how we got there and how we can fix it. Session 1. We the People fraud. Number 2, Federation fraud. 3, Fighting corruption masquerade fraud. 4, Socially responsible state masquerade fraud. Chinwenzu. Please check the Atlantic Post Facebook page for more information and on when the next session will take place, plus the direct link to our Atlantic Post Club on Clubhouse. Virtual town hall meetings by Atlantic Post on Clubhouse. If you are fed up with Nigeria, this virtual Clubhouse meeting is for you. If you are fed up with the lack of electricity, you are fed up with police brutality, as in NSAS, you are frightened of insecurity, you are frightened for your future, etc. Atlantic Post Club on Clubhouse is pleased to announce that we are hosting NINAS Movement's virtual town hall meetings for 2 weeks period, and the topics as listed earlier is the 4 frauds that are fatal for the 1999 Constitution. Atlantic Post is an online newspaper whose mission is to be at the forefront of bringing about the positive transformation of the African continent. That involves being sensitive and responsive to what happens in the Nigerian space. Our desire is for a safe and well-functioning society. Thus, our main purpose is to report not just accurate news, but also to bring the public's knowledge, interventions, and events that will improve society. So come and be empowered with knowledge about the 1999 Constitution and how you can be a change agent to end those things that make you fed up and frightened with Nigeria by joining us for this Nina's Movement's virtual town hall meetings. Links to the meeting can be found at www.clubhouse.com/club/Atlantic-post-club. For more information, please visit the Facebook page, facebook.com/Atlantic-posting. Thank you. U.S. group calls on Joe Biden's administration to designate Buhari, El-Rufai, and Issa Pantami, among others, as sponsors of terrorism in Nigeria. Friday, November 12, 2021, by Bobby Adams. Global Advocates for Terrorism Eradication, GATE, GATE for short, a United States-based non-profit organization, has petitioned the U.S. government to designate President Muhammadu Buhari and several other officials as sponsors of terrorism in Nigeria. The 26-page petition, signed by the group's principal advocate, Robert Berry, was addressed to Anthony J. Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State. The group urged the U.S. government to designate the Nigerian government as sponsors of terrorism, alleging that, from all available indices, what is happening in Nigeria is state-sponsored terrorism. It alleged that the Nigerian government officials were sponsoring terrorism by carrying out terrorist activities, including training, funding, financing, and recruitment of terrorists, using their offices as a safe haven, transit, and operational base for terrorists and terrorist activities. GATE, in the petition, accused the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, Governor Nasser El-Rufai of Kaduna State, former Chief of Army Staff and current Nigerian Ambassador to the Republic of Benin, Tuko Buratai, and the Director General of State Security Services, Yusuf Magaji Bichi, of aiding terrorism in Nigeria. Others accused of terrorism by GATE are former Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu, Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, Ministers of Communication Issa Pantami, Justice and Information Abubakar Malami and Lai Mohammed. That's Ministers of Communication, Justice and Information, which represents Issa Pantami, Abubakar Malami, and Lai Mohammed, respectively, among others. It alleged that the Nigerian government officials have deployed the instrumentality of power and are using the veil of sovereignty in knowingly consenting with and with malicious intent, allowing and promoting the use of Nigeria as a breeding ground and the recruitment nursery for international terrorism activities, contrary to Foreign Relations Authorizations Act, fiscal years 1988 and 1989, PL-100 to 204 22 USC 2656F as amended. The group also gave a 2-month notice to the United States government, warning that if at the expiration of the 2-month deadline and the designation is not made, GATE will proceed to the federal court in the United States to apply for a writ of mandamus to compel the United States Secretary of State to issue the designation in line with the provisions of law. GATE argued that designating Nigerian officials as sponsors of terrorism by the U.S. will have far-reaching legal implications, including potentially arrest and criminal prosecution in a federal U.S. court if they visit the country. Buttressing its point, the group cited an interview a former Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence Services of the Nigerian military, Navy Commander Kunle Olawumi, granted Channels Television on August 24, 2021, where he laid out all the terrorist activities of the government and its officials. It said in spite of the revelations from the interview, the Nigerian government did nothing about the issues raised. Instead, they even hunted the retired commander. That in spite of this knowledge, the Nigerian government has vehemently refused to take appropriate measures to protect her citizens and the global community from the nefarious activities of those state actors, it said. The group concluded, the current Nigerian government led by President Muhammadu Buhari is executing a global jihadist agenda that is comparable, if not more insidious, than that of the Taliban of Afghanistan. It's even more dangerous because it is mixed with genocidal tendencies. It is in the best interest of the United States and all the democratic countries of the world to identify this threat early and address it now.
They are not available anywhere in the world. No church like Redeem, no church like Winners, no church like Mountain of Fire, no church like Chosen, no church like Christ Embassy, no church like Deeper Life in the world. Redeem alone has over 40,000 parishes. Winner alone has 30,000. There are only 10,000 wards in Nigeria where decisions of those who rule these countries are made. So it's not just deliver Nigeria. It should be God. Wake up your church. Talk to your general overseers. The church community is an imprisoned community. Our general overseers have imprisoned us. They must release us, mobilize us, encourage us to go to the grassroots. Politics is grassroots. You know, I have done politics before. I have campaigned, I've been voted for. I was a deputy speaker of a state. I know how it works. It's not just prayer. We have prayed. And God has answered the prayers. The answer is that He has given us people. Next to God's power is political power. And I want what I am saying to be carried live. Next to God's power is political power. And political power is people giving. And God has given us people. What else do you want Him to do for us? You want God to come from heaven and be casting vote? You want God to go to the world and become world chairman? No, the 7 ESCO in each ward, they are the one that determine who is the president. We can't change Nigeria except we change the National Assembly. This evil law called Constitution, this is jihadist constitution. This is oligarchy constitution. This is a constitution that put the whole of the country under one tribe. This constitution cannot allow to go. And it cannot change until you change the men at the National Assembly. The men at the National Assembly will not change until you select new people that will replace them. So the church must wake up. And not only church, patriotic Nigerians must wake up in the name of Jesus. And you don't win on social media. You don't win on Facebook. You go to the grassroots. Me and you must be attending world meeting. And we will put our good people there. It is the people at the world that are called delegates. It is delegates that select who will be the president, who will be the governor, who will be the senator. If you are not there, you are at the back of the fence. If you pray from now till next year, and you are not there, you say prayer in vain. Church must wake up. And that's what I'm telling the whole church, and I'm telling you now. I don't know why God sent me to politics when I went. But you see, God has to send Joseph to Pharaoh's house. Joseph has to be raised in the palace to understand the palace culture. And then God returned him to defeat Egypt. By the grace of God, we will take Nigeria back. This country must be restructured. We must go back to true federalism. Nigeria was a negotiated country. Nigeria is not one country. Nigeria is a country of many nations. How can one ethnic group dominate everybody? It will not happen. It will not happen again. This year, God will deliver this country. Nigeria is a fraud. Our constitution is a fraud. Very unfair, very unkind, no equity. The whole of us will be under one. And if it is an ethnic right that wants progress, it will be a different thing. Repressing us. Now, that evil called Nigeria system will change. Amen. They want to go and carry me. Let them come and carry me. Even there, I will be saying it. Amen. And please change your prayer mode. Lord, save Nigeria. And Lord, save Nigeria. God has already saved Nigeria. It should be God. Wake up, Christians. Talk to our leaders. Let them allow us. Are you hearing me? There are only 10,000 words. And I just mentioned some churches now that have thousands of parishes. Parishes that are docile, that are asleep. You are in the majority, but you are asleep. Minority dominating over you, changing the law. Terrible law. Those laws must be changed. Change your prayer mode. If you are in our church, we don't pray, God save Nigeria. We just pray one country. Nigeria is not one nation. That's the first law we told ourselves. One nation. This country is not one nation. This country is many nations tied together by force. We must agree how to be one. We are not saying we are going to divide, but let everyone rule himself at his own pace, and let's meet at the center. Let's be like the United States of America. New York and New Jersey, they are side by side. They have different law, different policemen, different constitution. That's what it should be. Not somebody who dictates in Abuja, and that is all of us must do. Slow down our education, slow down our economy, slow down our military, make Nigeria unsafe. This evil system, die today! Amen. I don't know why God took me to politics in 1991. You know, what I saw in politics, I can't see it from the pulpit. That's why sometimes I don't blame our daddies. They can't see it. Let's pray, oh, let's pray. Oh. You pray until they cut your neck. You pray until they abduct all your children. No, we have prayed enough. We will still be praying. Time for action. Time for action. Time for action. I am going to tell you more about it later. I'm writing a book that is circulating all over the country now. And I have been around here for 49 years with you. And some of you are blaming me when I went into politics. God made my eyes to open. Nigeria will not be free until we send away these evil politicians. They must be replaced. And our constitution must be rewritten in the name of Jesus. Do you still like me? All right.
Abnormalities and insanities. Thinking Nigeria, but God does not utter confusion. A 14-year-old cannot be admitted into university to study, but a 13-year-old can be married. Former governor actually traveled to another country, Egypt, to marry a 13-year-old. Yerima of Zamfara State. A school certificate holder cannot become a director in the civil service, but a school certificate holder can become president and commander-in-chief of the entire country. The country is among the major oil-producing countries in the world, but it imports fuel it consumes. It imports the fuel that it consumes, an oil and gas producing country, Nigeria. The country has the highest number of foreign doctors in the UK and North America, but its leaders travel abroad for their medical needs, like medical tourists. The country shoots armless protesters, but holds peace parleys with bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists. The country rehabilitates terrorists, but their victims languish in refugee camps. Victims of the terrorists are in fact, they bomb them from the air. The Nigerian Air Force bombs them from the air. God did not create any country. He located human beings in different territories and gave them all empowerments to survive. Whatever they turn out to be is entirely their choices and decisions. UAE and Qatar are deserts converted to paradise. Nigeria is paradise converted to hell. Nigeria is the epitome of confusion, and God is not the author of confusion. We can right this wrong. It is our difficult but surmountable task. Yes, we can, through multi-regional binding referendum vote. That's the solution. If we don't skirt around it, we can get to that solution in hours. And then we can plan on how to get ourselves cleaned up so that the healing process will start. Anything else is just dress. Regionalism or disintegration will solve Nigeria's problem. Cleric. Senior pastor awaiting the second coming of Jesus Christ ministry at Adewale Giwa. Adewale Giwa has called on all Nigerians to embrace regionalism, saying it would solve many challenges facing the country. This is contained in the Punch newspaper of November 29, 2021, today. He also said the plan by the federal government to remove fuel subsidy and increase the pump price for petrol by 2022 was not a solution to the current economic problem of the nation. The cleric stated this at his church in Akure, the Ondo State capital, on Sunday during the 20th anniversary of the church. According to him, Nigeria could only grow if the country could adopt a regional system. He said even without the removal of fuel subsidy, people still find it difficult to live, so the removal of subsidy is nothing but nonsense. What Nigeria needs right now is disintegration, or we go back to the regional system of government. Anything aside that is a failure. Abraham and Lot had a similar problem in Genesis chapter 13. There was a crisis between the two of them. This is very true. This is very biblical. Abraham had to call Lot to resolve this issue amicably. When you go to the south, I will go to the east. When you go to the west, I will go to the north. Lot had to agree with him, and they separated. Who said separation is not in the Bible? Anybody that says that is deceiving himself. Amen. The problem is compounding, and for us to solve the issue once and for all, we need disintegration. Disintegration will address the issue of subsidy because each region will manage itself. That is the truth, nothing but the truth. Giwa, however, cried out that there were attempts to silence the church following different threat messages he had been receiving. Nigeria. The pastor said, "They cannot stop me from saying the truth, but the issue of the church is that they are divided. There is wide division amongst us. Some pastors are being antagonized for saying the truth. The same problem we are having in Nigeria is the same one we are having in Christendom. The insecurity issues due to the failure on the part of the government. With the amount of security vote being taken by the governors, they have been able to utilize it. Have they been able to utilize it very well? If the security vote is being managed very well, kidnapping will be a thing of the past. 2023 election is not our problem now. They should put aside that election. Amen. They should first address salient issues like insecurity, hunger, and lots of issues affecting this country. Only God knows what will happen in 2023. I must add that we need, there is no need for any further political activities, but we need a referendum urgently. And that is where NINAS comes in. NINAS presents the template, the model, the processes that will be followed to save more lives of Nigerians and restore dignity and peace among all our people and silence all the evil that is going on all over the place so that the cleanup process will start. That is what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationality Alliance for Self-Determination, is an alliance of ethnic nationalities from the Middle Belt, Southwest, and Lower Niger region. On the 16th of December 2020, NINAS declared a constitutional force majeure against the illegitimate 1999 Constitution. NINAS demanded that the federal government acknowledge the constitutional grievances expressed by the ethnic nationalities, as well as begin the decommissioning of the 1999 Constitution, and no further election should be conducted on the 1999 Constitution until all grievances are resolved. To support NIAS and the constitutional force majeure, sign the petition at www.ninasffn.org/register to end 1999 Constitution now. To speak with Ninas, call the number 0813 425 4584 or 070 5924 9885.
Say no to 1999 Constitution. Say yes to ethnic self-determination. We have a right to fight for our freedom. We must arise and save our nation. You want good road, you sign the petition. Better work, oh. Sign the petition. Clean water and light. Sign the petition. Security. Sign the petition. Healthcare, sign the petition. Better schools, oh. Sign the petition. Housing project. Sign the petition. Hope for the future. Sign the petition. My people, and we never tire for these leaders when they oppress us every day. We need to free ourselves before water passing gari pata pata. Wetin we need now to come out to this year 1999 Constitution. We don't dabaru everything finish. We need to make another new one by a referendum. We go make region control their resources. My people, no, they waste time, yo. As you they hear this message, run now. Go to www.ninasffn.org. Make you sign that petition today. No, they waste time, mo. The time for change is now.
NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationality Alliance for Self-Determination, is an alliance of ethnic nationalities from the Middle Belt, Southwest, and Lower Niger region. On the 16th of December 2020, NINAS declared a constitutional force majeure against the illegitimate 1999 Constitution. NINAS demanded that the federal government acknowledge the constitutional grievances expressed by the ethnic nationalities, as well as begin the decommissioning of the 1999 Constitution, and no further election should be conducted on the 1999 Constitution until all grievances are resolved. To support NIAS and the constitutional force majeure, sign the petition at www.ninasffn.org/register to end 1999 Constitution now. To speak with NINAS, call the number 0813 425 4584 or 070 5924 9885.
Nigeria nationhood, cohesion, do we have one? I know we don't have one. Nigeria is still yearning for nationhood after her independence since 1960. Perhaps one of the greatest fault lines we have is the way itself by which we came together, cobbled together by Lord Lugard on the 1st of January 1914. Perhaps one of the most the strongest fault lines is the way we were even named when we were formerly called Royal Niger Company Protectorates. And one young lady felt that name was too long. And she wrote an article in the London Economic Times on the 8th of January 1897. I said we should call that country, that area around the Niger area, which was how we came by the name Nigeria. We didn't really agree that we were going to be one country. The Berlin West African Conference of about 1844 to 1845 merely partitioned West Africa amongst the Portuguese, the Germans, the English people, and all that. So it was not as if we agreed to come together as one nation, which is why everyone is still suspicious of the other one. We already had the Hausa city-states, the Igbo city-states, the Karian Bonu Empire. Remember, we had great kingdoms, the Oyo Empire, the Benin Empire. Remember the great role of Oba Ovorami Nogbaise, the man who told the British don't visit Benin during that holy month in December of 1897. And the British said they must visit. And of course, the guards who were in charge of the moat seized them and killed them. That was what led to the infamous Benin punitive expedition of 1898, February, led by a British who led 1,200 troops. Didn't we know about people like great kings like Oba or like King Jaja of Opobo? They were already there. Moremi, Queen Idia. So we had our set ways of life, and we were happy before the British came with their mercantilism, holding the Bible in one hand, and of course, slave trade on the other hand. A trade that was to ravage us for over 500 years before people like William Wilberforce, Thomas Clarkson, even our own Olaudo Equiano stepped in. And before the great American, Abraham Lincoln, on the 19th of November, 1863, abolished slave trade, for which, of course, he was promptly executed in 1865. So the problems have been there. That is why no Nigerian believes I am a Nigerian. If you ask me, I will say I'm from Ijukwe, a small village near Agenibode, in Esako, East Local Government Area of Edo State. Because unlike what President Kennedy once told the Americans, think not of what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Nigerians ask themselves, what has Nigeria done for us that we are in turn expected to do much for her? That is why go around Abuja or Lagos or any city in Nigeria on Sundays and you see the various town unions, because the people believe more in their town unions, in their village enclaves, than that contraction called Nigeria, which is practicing unitarism rather than federalism. And my bishop brother narrated the history very well. The American Revolution, the independence of 1776, and of course, the Philadelphia Convention between May and September 1787, where they decided to have a more perfect union with 50 confederates coming together. They were already confederates, but they needed to have a more perfect union. It was that convention, at that convention, that they agreed on certain irreducible minimals of government: federalism, presidentialism, the doctrine of separation of powers, which had earlier in 1748 been popularized by the great French philosopher Baron de Montesquieu. It was at that conference or convention they agreed on the doctrine of judicial review. It was at that conference that Washington himself was thrown up, who became the first president of America. It was at that conference you had the great federalists like Alexander Hamilton, John James, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. Great Americans that wrote the American Constitution, which today had just about 27 amendments and about 7,891 words. Unlike our Constitution, which is as big as a briefcase and is unworkable because it is not the people's constitution. Now, what happened at that conference is that the people decided to come together to believe in a document, in a constitution, which was people-driven. After the 50 states came together, 36 states, and then subjected it to a referendum. So I've always asked the question, why is Nigeria, why are we afraid of that word referendum when we hear of a referendum, plebiscite? Didn't we do it here at least in 1963 on the 10th of August when the Midwest region was separated from the Western region to become the fourth region in Nigeria? So Referendum is not something we should be afraid of. The process by which a constitution comes into being is even more important than the contents of that constitution, which is why Nigeria derived the present constitution of 1999, that is actually decree number 24 of 1999. So the American constitution was people-driven, unlike the Nigerian constitution that was a militarily imposed constitution. It can never enjoy the legitimacy, the credibility, the believability, and the autonomy of the people, because it is not autonomous. It is not people-driven. So Egypt did it. They had their own constitution. Iraq, Iran, after a referendum, Kenya, South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Eritrea. Why can't we have our own constitution? It is not that it will solve all the problems, but it will be the beginning of the solution to the problems, so that mutual respect will come in. We cannot have national cohesion in a state of inequity, in a state of social injustice, in a state of religious intolerance, in a state or a situation where some people believe they are born to rule and others are born to serve as clappers and as hewers of wood and drawers of water. Let me end, sir. Since you are warning me, the way late MKO Abiola put it, I always like to mimic him. Great Nigerian who won the presidency but was murdered and he never reigned for one day. He said, you cannot begin to talk about peace. There are different types of peace. In fact, the most peaceful place on earth is the graveyard, the cemetery. But that is not the kind of peace we want. The kind of peace we are talking about is peace that is imbued with social justice, egalitarianism, mutual respect, religious tolerance, ethnic tolerance. That is the kind of peace we are talking about. God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Notes on the self-determination goal of the NINA's campaign and the formations for the reinstatement of suppressed sovereignty. NINA Secretariat, December 2, 2021. As we advance towards the terminal stages of the processes for the reinstatement of self-determination and sovereignty to the peoples of the NINA's alliance territories, South and Middle Belt, trapped in the failed Lugadian experiment of 1914, whose sovereignties are currently suppressed and subsumed under the suzerainty of unitary Nigeria, erected by fiat upon the fraudulent 1999 Constitution of Nigeria. It has become necessary to once more shed some light on the formations in which the reinstatement of suppressed sovereignties are being undertaken. From the onset, as can be verified by a review of all our public communications documents, including audio-visuals over the years, the goal of the entire intervention we have driven since 1999 as PRONACO, MNN, and NINAS had always been to deliver the sovereignty of the peoples of Nigeria back to them. Subject to referendums and plebiscites, the formations in which the sovereignties would be pursued and taken back are also clearly articulated, hence the maps that accompany our propositions at each stage. Prior to the emergence of the NINAS map, which shows a 4-block internal delineation, the MNN map of Nigeria, broken into 4 blocks, has been in the public domain since the 2007 court suit challenging the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. The 4-block map represents the formations in which the inevitable union reconfiguration that would follow the demise of the irreversible 1999 Constitution is being discussed and undertaken, all the way to referendums and plebiscites. Just like the question of geographical formations for aggregating, the degree of autonomy desired by the peoples of each of the blocks in the NINAS alliance will also be determined by the referendums and plebiscites. The two questions, that is, geographical formations and degree of autonomy, can consolidate for resolution in the one referendum or plebiscite. These notes of clarification became necessary as a response to what seems like a confusion, real or contrived, regarding the formations in which the peoples of each bloc in the NINAS alliance will step into their freedom when the bondages of unitarism and suzerainty masquerading as Nigeria are broken, as well as the degree of autonomy represented by the self-determination being sought on their behalf by NINAS and its constituent components. All other arrangements regarding relationships between the various blocs in the NINAS alliance will be undertaken in freedom and self-determination, meaning that such arrangements will be determined strictly by agreements freely reached by the blocs, not by fiat or any form of imposition. May we request that those who understand these clarifications to please explain to others who may not. It is an important part of the liberation campaign to educate and enlighten the people seeking the liberation, as it has become clear to us that the ignorance of most of our people has been a great obstacle to our path to freedom, and that ignorance is being exploited by sundry mischief makers for all kinds of purposes, including quick gains. Notes on the self-determination goal of the NINAS campaign and the formations for the reinstatement of suppressed sovereignty. NINAS Secretariat, December 2, 2021. As we advance towards the terminal stages of the processes for the reinstatement of self-determination and sovereignty to the peoples of the NINAS Alliance territories, South and Middle Belt, trapped in the failed Lugadian experiment of 1914, whose sovereignties are currently suppressed and subsumed under the suzerainty of unitary Nigeria, erected by fiat upon the fraudulent 1999 Constitution of Nigeria. It has become necessary to once more shed some light on the formations in which the reinstatement of suppressed sovereignties are being undertaken. From the onset, as can be verified by a review of all our public communications documents, including audiovisuals over the years, the goal of the entire intervention we have driven since 1999 as PRONACO, MNN, and NINAS had always been to deliver the sovereignty of the peoples of Nigeria back to them. Subject to referendums and plebiscites, the formations in which the sovereignties will be pursued and taken back are also clearly articulated, hence the maps that accompany our propositions at each stage. Prior to the emergence of the NINAS map, which shows a 4-block internal delineation, the MNN map of Nigeria, broken into 4 blocks, has been in the public domain since the 2007 court suit challenging the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. The 4-block map represents the formations in which the inevitable union reconfiguration that would follow the demise of the irreversible 1999 Constitution is being discussed and undertaken, all the way to referendums and plebiscites. Just like the question of geographical formations for aggregating, the degree of autonomy desired by the peoples of each of the blocs in the NINAS alliance will also be determined by the referendums and plebiscites. The two questions, that is, geographical formations and degree of autonomy, can consolidate for resolution in the one referendum or plebiscite. These notes of clarification became necessary as a response to what seems like a confusion, real or contrived, regarding the formations in which the peoples of each bloc in the NINAS alliance will step into their freedom when the bondages of unitarianism and suzerainty masquerading as Nigeria are broken, as well as the degree of autonomy represented by the self-determination being sought on their behalf by NINAS and its constituent components. All other arrangements regarding relationships between the various blocs in the NINAS alliance will be undertaken in freedom and self-determination, meaning that such arrangements will be determined strictly by agreements freely reached by the blocs, not by fiat or any form of imposition. May we request that those who understand these clarifications to please explain to others who may not. It is an important part of the liberation campaign to educate and enlighten the people seeking the liberation, as it has become clear to us that the ignorance of most of our people has been a great obstacle to our path to freedom, and that ignorance is being exploited by sundry mischief makers for all kinds of purposes, including quick gains. Notes on the self-determination goal of the NINAS campaign and the formations for the reinstatement of suppressed sovereignty. NINAS Secretariat, December 2, 2021. As we advance towards the terminal stages of the processes for the reinstatement of self-determination and sovereignty to the peoples of the NINAS Alliance territories, South and Middle Belt, trapped in the failed Lugadian experiment of 1914, whose sovereignties are currently suppressed and subsumed under the suzerainty of unitary Nigeria, erected by fiat upon the fraudulent 1999 Constitution of Nigeria. It has become necessary to once more shed some light on the formations in which the reinstatement of suppressed sovereignties are being undertaken. From the onset, as can be verified by a review of all our public communications documents, including audiovisuals over the years, the goal of the entire intervention we have driven since 1999 as PRONACO, MNN, and NINAS had always been to deliver the sovereignty of the peoples of Nigeria back to them. Subject to referendums and plebiscites, the formations in which the sovereignties will be pursued and taken back are also clearly articulated, hence the maps that accompany our propositions at each stage. Prior to the emergence of the NINAS map, which shows a 4-block internal delineation, the MNN map of Nigeria, broken into 4 blocks, has been in the public domain since the 2007 court suit challenging the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. The 4-block map represents the formations in which the inevitable union reconfiguration that would follow the demise of the irreversible 1999 Constitution is being discussed and undertaken, all the way to referendums and plebiscites. Just like the question of geographical formations for aggregating, the degree of autonomy desired by the peoples of each of the blocs in the NINAS alliance will also be determined by the referendums and plebiscites. The two questions, that is, geographical formations and degree of autonomy, can consolidate for resolution in the one referendum or plebiscite. These notes of clarification became necessary as a response to what seems like a confusion, real or contrived, regarding the formations in which the peoples of each bloc in the NINAS alliance will step into their freedom when the bondages of unitarianism and suzerainty masquerading as Nigeria are broken, as well as the degree of autonomy represented by the self-determination being sought on their behalf by NINAS and its constituent components. All other arrangements regarding relationships between the various blocs in the NINAS alliance will be undertaken in freedom and self-determination, meaning that such arrangements will be determined strictly by agreements freely reached by the blocs, not by fiat or any form of imposition. May we request that those who understand these clarifications to please explain to others who may not. It is an important part of the liberation campaign to educate and enlighten the people seeking the liberation, as it has become clear to us that the ignorance of most of our people has been a great obstacle to our path to freedom, and that ignorance is being exploited by sundry mischief makers for all kinds of purposes, including quick gains.
Most of us in this National Assembly today, this is there to tell this nation today that this is the problem. This constitution can never give us progress. This constitution can never give us peace. This constitution can never give us unity. And unfortunately, most of us in this National Assembly, we don't have the spine to face what we need to give this republic to have peace and progress. What do I mean? This constitution has 68 items. 68 on the exclusive list. This constitution has only 12 on the concurrent list, and those 12 are written so nebulously, so fraudulently, that you know that the intention is to even undermine those concurrent lists. The formal name of this republic is Federal Republic of Nigeria. Unfortunately, we don't run a federalist system in Nigeria. Otherwise, what is so unique about all those things that are in the exclusive list? In this chamber, we try to federalize the police system. In this chamber, we failed. Every crime is local, and the solution to every crime is local. The earlier that senators in Nigeria summoned the courage to say, we should not continue to deceive ourselves. Dare to tell.
Fellow Nigerian, in search of excellence for Africa, my mission remains to create awareness, advance practical solutions, and transform mindsets via case studies. Together, let's midwife deliverance for our race, country, and continent. Please share this video. I am Dr. Israel Noyerem Davidson. Thank you. In 2001, US-led forces overthrew a Taliban-led Afghan government following the 9/11 attacks led by the Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. For the next 20 years, the US and allies enforced democratic ideals, built up Afghan security forces, and provided operational air cover. The Taliban continued to attacks. Now, eventually, under President Trump, the US promised to pull out if Taliban agreed to stop attacks and hosting terrorist groups. Today, the Taliban militants have